Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. Here's your flash briefing for the week of October 23rd. City Council will meet for regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers and City Hall. If you can't watch, quickly catch up on City Council meetings by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. Join us for the Downtown Market Plaza groundbreaking this Tuesday, October 24th at 4:30 p.m. Festivities will be held at the corner of Green and 3rd Streets. Learn more about the project at cityofls.net. And Booze, Barks, and Badges will be taking place October 28th in downtown Lee Summit from 9:30 to noon. Families and their pets are invited to wear costumes and be part of a parade downtown. Following the parade, trick or treat at participating businesses. Learn more at downtownls.org. And mark your calendars for holiday open house. That's right, it's time to start thinking about those holiday wish lists. Shop holiday gifts and decor in downtown Lee Summit November 3rd and November 4th. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either a bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914 Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
Like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as the co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Please, please, how can we help you?
My husband has...
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. Say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you. Well, then we found a support person and they responded immediately and we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
Member Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. Quite a few of us are getting questions about the plan, so I didn't know if, just for the public knowledge. I'm not a politician. I feel like I'm just an average person in Lee Summit. I stay home with my children. My husband works 48-hour shifts at the fire department. They have a football field set up. Our two-car garage is we're gonna bring the driveway back through here, and it's gonna go right here. And then, so my family has chickens. When we first got chickens, my husband said, don't treat them as your pets, treat them as chickens, because we're going to be eating the eggs, and I would like to use them for meat. So don't treat them as your pets. Well, we now have 6 chickens that I consider my pets, and I will not let him kill for meat. So we live downtown, and we love living downtown. These are my children. The first one's Lincoln, and Amira, and Sophia, and Caleb. This is a great neighborhood. Downtown is one big community. We like to walk to the farmer's market. Here, hold my hand. It's an easy walk, probably less than 10 minutes. The farmer's market has always been a very important part of my life and my family's life. As a matter of fact, when my daughter started kindergarten, I dropped her off and I was going shopping at the farmer's market right behind Lee Summit Elementary. And I was teary-eyed because she was my first and she was going off to kindergarten. And Terry, the butterfly lady, the one that's in the purple shirt, and she used to make little butterfly stickers for everyone, she gave me a big hug and was just so empathetic to the fact that my daughter had just started school. A lot of the farmers there, they've watched my kids grow up. I love Lee Summit in general. I love that it still has a small town feel while embracing growth and the arts and diversity. And I feel like downtown specifically embodies that. My kids go to Lee Summit Elementary, and a lot of their teachers live downtown. So when we're out walking, we see so many people we know. I lived in Africa until I was 5, and then we moved to the United States, and I've lived in Lee Summit since. A lot of my childhood, my mom was a single mom, and I feel like I was essentially raised by my community, and being on council, it's just such an important way to give back to the community that raised me.
I state your name.
I, Mia Pryor,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications
on the 5th day of April 2022. The election process was fun. I got to go door to door and talk to people, which is my absolute favorite thing to do, is talking to people and learning about people. I even had people inviting me into their house for dinner or inviting me back to their house to meet their spouse. And I knocked on a door, and the lady that answered the door was my kindergarten teacher. So it was a lot of fun. Hi everyone, I'm Councilmember Mia Pryor. Thank you very much for coming tonight. I love being a council rep for District 1. I know everyone says this, but District 1 is by far, in my opinion, the best district. Raintree Lake, that's part of District 1. I love that community. Actually, my husband and I got married at the clubhouse in Raintree Lake. I really love all of South Lee Summit. I love the growth that they're going to be experiencing soon and that they've already experienced. I wanted to say that if you guys have a concern, please come tell us what your concern is, because we can only address and help with what we know. We're there to kind of bridge that gap. We're the voice of our constituents, and we can go to the city and voice what their concerns are. So if you have a concern, definitely make us aware. It's always been important to me to be active in the community, and I married a firefighter that works for Lee Summit Fire. Go say hi to Daddy. And so having first responders supported in the community has always been important to me. But also, I wanted to influence the growth in Lee Summit, the type of businesses we get here and the type of activities there are to do.
So our first presentation tonight is going to be about that very exciting Farmers Market Plaza.
I want to show you the most recent rendering fly-through video.
The farmers market has always been such an important part of my life. So to see it developing into something as big as it's going to be across from City Hall is super exciting to me. I can't wait for it to get built and to start welcoming people. I don't think so. Okay. You want to hold it? Don't drop it.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Chickens were out. We thought that would be a good place for the dogs. I'm not a politician. I'm just an average person in Lee Summit that wanted to be a voice of many that sometimes feel like they don't have a voice. Just a mom that cares.
October 26, 2023. Could I get a roll call, please?
Mark Kitchens. Cinda Rader.
Present.
Jake Lovelace. Dana Arth.
Present.
Donnie Funk.
Present.
Terry Trafton.
Present.
Tanya Jonah Ford.
Present.
Chip Tazinski.
Present.
Randy Benbrook.
Thank you. Randy, I don't know if you caught the email from Randy. He's hung up in traffic. I don't know if he's still coming or he may be late. I don't know any changes to the agenda, so I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as published.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as published.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Motion and second. Could I get a vote, please?
Cinda Rader.
Aye.
Dana Arth.
Aye.
Donnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trafton.
Yes.
Tanya Jonah Ford.
Yes.
Chip Tazinski.
Yes. Thank you. I do not know if we have any public comments outside of any of the applications we have tonight. I see none, nothing from staff. Okay. We will move on to our first item, and that is approval of our consent agenda. The consent agenda has item A, approval of the October 12th, 2023 Planning Commission Action Report. Item B, application PL 2021072, final plat, Woodland Oaks, lots 1 through 42, and tracks B, A, and B, Engineering Solutions applicant. Item C, application PL 2023-142, final plat, the Village at Discovery Park, lots 1 through 13, and tracks A and B, Intrinsic Development LLC applicant. And item D, application PL 2023-222, vacation of easement, 690 Northwest Blue Parkway, Chick-fil-A applicant. I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Motion, I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a vote, please?
Cinda Rader. Dana Arth.
Aye.
Donnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trafton.
Yes.
Tanya Jonah Ford.
Yes.
Chip Tazinski.
Yes.
Thank you. And the consent agenda has been approved. We will move on to our public hearings and start with our first item, item A. We will open up application PL 2023-196, commercial rezoning with preliminary development plan and conceptual plan, Downtown Market Plaza, 201, 205, and 220 Southeast Green Street, 205 and 208 Johnson Street, and 200, 202 Southeast 3rd Street, Lane 4 Property Group applicant. Anyone wishing to speak or provide testimony on this application, please stand and be sworn in at this time. Let's start over, Jeanine. These guys they weren't together there. They were working. Yeah. Thank you. The applicant has a presentation. Please come forward. I guess not. You're not the applicant.
All right, Chair. Good evening. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, Ryan Elam, Assistant City Manager. The applicant for this project is Lane 4, and they are here and available to answer questions about the project as a whole. But given kind of the unique nature of this project and the partnership that we've established as the City of Lee Summit and Lane 4 for the public components of the Downtown Market Plaza project, we felt it was appropriate for myself to kind of kick the presentation off and discuss a little bit of the history and where we're at and where we're going and where we hope to go as well. This project has been discussed in the public realm for quite some time, and all the way back to 2013 and before. In one form or another, there's been a lot of discussion about an outdoor performance venue in downtown Lee Summit, as well as a permanent farmers market. There's been over 30 different presentations, if you will, and discussions, ordinances and partnerships and contracts that have been brought forward for public discussion at the City Council in order to kind of continue to move these projects along. The reason why I mention that is because it's a unique situation that we're in with the city being the developer of these components. It's a little bit different than, say, fire station or what we normally do. And the reason for that is the complexity and trying to really further the goals of the Downtown Master Plan and the Ignite Comprehensive Plan. And we've been very open and very public with kind of some of the roles that a traditional developer would do behind the scenes prior to coming to City Council or to Planning Commission or City Council. So we've kind of taken on that role of developer for these public improvements. And you can see that there's a lot that goes into it just to come up to this point to be in front of the Planning Commission to discuss the zoning and preliminary development plan associated with a project. So just wanted to mention that. Overall, so I mentioned 2013 and before, we started entering into a number of different partnerships over the years. This project's a big partnership with the Downtown CID for the farmers market component itself, as well as our other partners that we've brought forward lately, being Lane 4, Biederman Redevelopment Ventures, GLMV Architecture, Olson Studio, McCown Gordon from a construction standpoint, Collins Webb Architecture.
Ryan, just sorry to interrupt you. The 2013 you're talking about, that was the tax bond that was voted on?
There was, and that was a portion of kind of the original aspect of how this project got started. Now, the project is night and day different from what it was in 2013, but I'll say conceptually from a use standpoint, there's an outdoor performance market, outdoor performance venue, which is what that bond issuance was looking for. And then there's been a number of enhancements to that throughout since then.
So were there RFPs for all these roles?
Yes, there was.
Okay.
There was RFQs for a number of these roles.
But not requests for proposals for the actual construction hasn't been done yet.
So where we're at in the process is that we had an RFQ for all of the professional services that then results in negotiations of contracts and things like that. RFPs for different portions of the work as well. And the construction manager at risk, that was an RFP process that went out. And then since then, we've had McCown Gordon leading up the procurement process for our different guaranteed max prices on that. And the only item that has been let so far has been the public infrastructure that's necessary for the site. Necessary not only for the site, but necessary for the area. Specifically, a major component of the current, what we call GMP-1, is that large storm sewer box that bisects that property, as well as the demolition associated with the existing structures on the building. So all of those are items that need to bring forward regardless of what project moves forward on that property as well. Currently, and this is right where I was going anyway, so this works out really well. Currently, they are gearing up to mobilize for that first phase. There was a ceremonial groundbreaking on Tuesday. The rain was definitely there. So it was very exciting, though, to get this started for the public infrastructure. As we move the project forward, there will be additional GMPs that come forward. We're working towards final design right now and looking to have that wrapped up and out towards the end of this year. So no construction on the building or anything like that, or anything related to this land use application will occur prior to any of the approvals here or at the city council level. And those are currently on schedule to be January timeframe for those contracts to be out and then be back in front of the city council for approval of the actual contracts associated with that to move forward. So hopefully that answered your question a little bit. But
when was the RFP for construction let? When was that posted?
For the construction manager at risk?
Yes.
That would have been, I can't remember. We can look that up. We've had over 35, like I said, over 35 items that have gone in front of city council on that. Now, I will say we are here tonight in front of the planning commission to talk about the land use and the zoning associated with it. The infrastructure construction is an item that we as a city have to utilize anyways. So I think Dawn might be looking up when we had the RFQ. Is that when it went to city council, or?
You know how many bidders we had on that?
So we had multiple firms bid on that. I'll have to look that up. That's we're here again to talk about the rezoning and conceptual plan and preliminary development plan for this project right now.
There's an economic impact to the proposed use of the community.
I can get that information. I did not have that prepared right now, but throughout the presentation, I will pull that information. But again, however, we are talking about the rezoning and the preliminary development plan tonight. No problem sharing that information. It was a very public process. I just don't have the details in front of me right now. But I will get those.
We can deal with that later.
I will pull those details. So, as I was saying, there's been a lot of work associated with this project. There's a lot of work that goes into every project that comes before the Planning Commission. And the difference with this project has been that that we as the city have been kind of doing a lot of those things out front that are done kind of behind the scenes for a private project. So with that, I'm going to show a video, a rendering. We're going to start the rest of the presentation off looking at what the project is going to look and feel like. I'm going to turn it over to the architects. They're going to go into detail about the site plan, all of the typical preliminary development plan stuff. We're going to turn it over to Shannon to give staff's traditional presentation to discuss how the project is going to be in alignment with the comprehensive plan and with all of our various strategic plans and master plans and things along those lines. And then the entire team will be available for questions. And while we get this going, I'll look up that information about the RFQ process. I know we tested this before and it worked fine, which seems to happen a lot with our. All right. I apologize for that. I'm not sure what the issue was, but we are having some execution issues on our server. So I'm going to do backup and go to our website. See if that will work. It might not be as high quality, but I think it'll help get the point would ask GLNV to come up now to carry the presentation. Buffering challenges. So the area of the project right now is what we call the Wickets Garden, and we'll have a lot more detail throughout the rest of the presentation. Watch the video when there is a strong internet connection. It's a lot more clear, and you can get a much better idea as to kind of what the project will look and feel like once constructed for the public comments. And I do apologize. Now I'd like to introduce GLMV.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Dan Pierce. Do you want our business address? Okay. Business address is 107 South Main Street, Independence, Missouri. 4050 if you need a zip. Good evening. We're excited to be here tonight to share our vision with you of the Downtown Market Plaza. Again, my name is Dan Pierce. I'm with GLMV Architecture. I'm a project architect and head of the visualization team within our firm. We're here tonight with other members of our team from Olson Studio, Collins and Webb, McCown Gordon, Lane 4. Just a little bit about some background here. For me, this is an exciting project to work on. I grew up here in Lee Summit. Graduated from Lee Summit High School just up the road. I'm not going to tell you what year I graduated because I don't want to date myself publicly. So if you want to find out, come find me after the meeting. I'd be happy to tell you in a non-televised setting. So why are we here? Again, we're here to present our vision for the project. We were selected by Lane 4 and the city to be master architect on this project a little over 2 years ago. And I also mentioned some of the team members you see at the bottom of our screen here. We've been working hard on the project, and the amount of time that we've spent on the project, we understand the importance and the complexity of this project. And because of that, we've looked at a number of different layouts and designs for the site and for the building. We've probably looked at it over 100 different ways, and if I'm being honest, it's probably closer to several hundred, but there's a reason for that, because we understand how important it is to the city, and we want to make sure that we get this project right. So we've never viewed the building or the development as just a farmer's market. We really see it as an incredible asset and opportunity for the city, and we see it as a place for gathering, for community, and something that's going to last for the next 50 years, hopefully longer than that. So we're excited to show you the design and walk you through it. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Darren Varner with Olson Studio to talk a little bit about the site to start off.
Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Darren Varner. I'm with the Olson Studio. We are at 1814 Main Street, Kansas City, Missouri, right on the train, the streetcar. Great place to be. Personally, I'll get into that. My wife and I love to visit Lee Summit downtown. Great place to be. We live right in the Brookside area, so there's kind of some comparisons there, but quite clearly this downtown is really a gem of the whole region. So I'm really excited to be playing a role in this to expand this downtown and keep the nice quaintness and all the great things that go on down here. We've been working on this project really since about 2015, our office, through some of the other planning mechanisms through here. We actually worked on the earlier version that came out online when it was just a big street and what you saw, and then we started over with, we were lucky enough to get back on this team when GLMV and Lane 4 were selected, so I feel great to continue forward with this. On the site, what we really feel great about is the big thing that really happened since the earlier renditions is the courageous move here to really grab a hold of 3/4 of this street and turn it into pedestrian. So we still have that familiarity of the streetscape of what you have downtown with the streetscape, you know, with the city lights on the road lights, the paving areas, those things going into the parking garage to the north. On the old Green Street. And then on the south, it's really the great extension of the natural way in for pedestrians. That's really where all the foot traffic is, people walking and doing this. So it's really turned out to be the greatest place to be, to make that pedestrian was in that first chunk along Green, the old Green Street. And then one of the big things, the catalyst in here really is this garden area. What we really appreciate about the downtown and what everybody's told us is it can't keep this isn't supposed to be something great, big and way out of scale. We're trying to be very respectful of the scale of the place and make things right-sized as we go through this whole thing. So this park area that we have at the first, we've called it the Wickets Garden only because there's these steel archways that you saw in that video, and those are really vessels for artwork. One of the big things that we've been working on with staff and with shareholders and the like downtown people is really trying to put a lot of places for artwork throughout this street and throughout this entertainment and market area. So those hoops, those wickets over the top of that garden will be able to change and transform themselves every so often. You have another call for artists, bring out something else, put something on those. So we're just supplying some structure really to encapsulate that area of the site. We have really two great ways into this. As everybody knows, when you come up from 3rd Street, that's really the accessible area to get up to the City Hall Plaza where the clock tower is. Right now you kind of got to squeeze your way through those trees and through those shrubs, and it's kind of hard to get in there. One of the things about this shape of this space, this garden, allowed us to create a much more gentle, comfortable, kind of generous area to get up onto that area. There's also some seating along there, so you can sit there and enjoy lunch or maybe do some business or chatting with friends or whatnot. As you go up through there, there'll be some overhead string lights in that area. They'll be a little different than the normal string lights we normally see when we go to these, so that'll add some unique character. And then to the right, on the other side of that garden, that's really the main art walk and some more temporary art displays there, but that takes us directly to really the big piece of this project, which is the market, the farmer's market place. So at the end of that walkway, you'll see that plaza in front of the market. That's another flexible space. All these spaces that we're talking about really are flexible. They can be programmed for things year-round. That's one of the big goals here. That's one of the team members that we have. So that space in front of the farmer's market could be, that could be where the Christmas tree is for the mayor there. And I think it's the place I always envision it is. That's where we're going to have the grand opening, where the crowd, people like myself, are going to be down there in that plaza, and there's an overlook up on the top of that hill where the City Hall Plaza is, where we see yourselves, the council, the staff, giving speeches, telling everybody how incredible it is that we've, what we've got and what this space is going to be. So that's the way I always picture that space in my own brain, that it's a fun place for dances and different things, but it's also where you make a lot of cool announcements and those kind of things. Up on the City Hall Plaza with Clock Tower thing, that's also being reconfigured. So right now it's kind of a mishmash, hodgepodge of landscape, different things up there. We've really opened that up to where it's more of a synthetic turf kind of area there, so it's all weather. Yoga classes, private events, different kind of things can happen up there. We see that, and then that Wickett's garden area, that's a great place for like Oktoberfest. Maybe that's where the beer garden, those kind of things extend into there. It could be really, really tremendous right there. And when you're up on that top, one of the great things about what everybody's been steering us towards, this is a multi-generational place. So you're looking down towards the market. To the left, you'll see that playground. So there'll be a lot of things for kids to do, grandparents to take their kids, their grandkids there, families to enjoy different kind of spaces while they're at the market, while they're doing other things on the site there. And then finally, one of the other places, that big lawn that's in front of the market on kind of the northwestern side. That's a great space to spill out the market. So you have indoor market, you have outdoor market. There's a grand pavilion over the top of that, which makes it, again, extends those seasons. So if it's raining a little bit or whatever, who really cares? I mean, you still got a great space to be under there. The lights coming through. Can be some appropriate sized concerts for downtown, different kind of performances going on there. That could be classes, anything that somebody can imagine that can happen in that space. And then, as we said, that roadway connection, the comfortable, way everybody's used to seeing the streetscape of the downtown is coming in from 2nd Street. We've made that. We've more of an entryway as well. It's not just for cars, and it's not just the back door to this market and this entertainment area. It's a really good front door if you're coming from across the street from the school, or you parked across, or you're coming in from the north. So a lot of great spaces, a lot of flexibility, a lot of artwork displayed throughout, just a lot of things that can allow this space to keep growing continuously over the years. We've been told this might be like a 100-year project of, you do it here and it lasts that long, kind of like your downtown. So really spent a lot of time with the team and everybody else of spending that effort with the staff and the stakeholders and the citizens. So thank you for listening to that part of the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've seen the site. Let's move to the building design. Before I get too much into the layout of the space, I want to talk about farmers markets and just kind of the direction that they're heading. Farmers markets today are quite different from what they were 10, 20 years ago, where you just had an open air structure. Your vendors would pull their trucks up under it and sell out of the back of it. You're using it 2 days a week, 2/3 of the year when you have good weather. So communities across the nation are starting to understand the value of what a community project like this, how big of an asset it can be to the city, just by being able to provide a flexible, enclosable indoor space. You look nationally, even if you look locally, a lot of communities around here are starting to pursue the same thing. Independence Uptown Market, Overland Park is in the process of reimagining their farmers market. I think they're looking at an enclosable space as well. So this is the direction that a lot of markets are heading, and I'm glad that the city of Lee Summit understands this concept and they see the value in providing an asset like this. So the first thing you'll notice when we're looking at the floor plan here, We are at a little bit of an angle. The reason for that is because we wanted to tie everything back to City Hall Plaza. We kind of broke the traditional grid that exists in downtown. I mentioned we looked at this lots of different ways. We had looked at it just kind of maintaining the original grid, and when we did that, it felt like it was almost a separate development. They wasn't really talking with the City Hall Plaza and everything, so that's part of the reason that we decided to angle everything back towards City Hall, so everything kind of flowed together. It was one, everything seemed like one cohesive development, told the same story. I mentioned this is a fully enclosable space. So the flexible space is what you'll see in green. That's where all the vendors would set up on a market day. That's where you could have wedding receptions, fundraisers, things of that nature. So it's a fully open, fully flexible space. It is a 4-season structure. We are providing air conditioning and heating throughout the space, so you will be able to be comfortable in there year-round. Flexible space. We are providing, you see kind of the shaded spots in that green. Those are kind of how we envision the market being laid out for the vendors. The market as it stands is currently around 50 vendors, and that's what we have provided in here. But like Darren was talking about, the opportunity to open up under the canopy, there's potential to double that and maybe even more than double it if you start to use some of the space on former Green Street that we have now made into the park-like setting. The primary entries into the market are what you see in red. Those are just our vestibules, and we have we've allowed for the opportunity to lock those down from the actual market space. So the reason for that, again, is flexibility. Let's say that there's an event that's being hosted out on the lawn and you don't want to open up the market space. You're still going to have a lot of people out there. They're still going to need to use the restroom, so they will be able to do that. There's opportunity to configure the space in multiple ways. The blue on both ends, we provided restrooms on both ends for convenience. So if somebody's on the north end of the building, they don't have to walk all the way down. We're trying to make it easy for people. We have family restrooms. I believe we've provided for a nursing room as well. In the orange, you will see a catering kitchen. It's not a full commercial kitchen. It'd be more somebody prepares the food off-site, brings it in, you can keep it warm, and start to stage everything to be served. We would have a 3-compartment sink in there as well. Storage is also a big thing that we want to make sure that we have enough room for. I will say from personal experience, I worked on the Uptown Market, and one thing that drives me crazy is we did not provide enough storage, and we have tables and chairs that lean up against the operable doors, and it drives me crazy every time I see it. So we want to make sure that we don't make that mistake on this. We've allowed for plenty of storage so we can keep those things hidden and keep that space nice and clean during the off hours. Operable doors, you'll see. Let's go to the next slide here, the elevations. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the elevations because I feel you get a better idea of the overall design through the 3-dimensional renderings and the animation. But you can see on the northwest elevation at the bottom, we have operable doors. The reason for that is, if you have nice weather, you have the potential to open that up and everything kind of flows. We talked about connecting back to City Hall, but it's the opportunity to connect inside of the market with outside of the market and just have everything flow. You'll have patrons who can easily come and go. They don't have to go through a dedicated entrance. One thing that you'll notice, you see the red in the southwest elevation. Again, we looked at a lot of different configurations and designs for this building. We've worked closely with city administration to make sure that we're adhering to the city design guidelines that have been established. We don't want this thing sticking out like a sore thumb. We want it to blend into the context and fabric of downtown. And you'll see some of the materials that we have up here. We worked closely to find a brick blend with the city that we felt kind of captured the essence of downtown. So we're trying to use traditional materials like that. One suggestion that we received from the mayor and other city officials was that early iterations, it was a little difficult to tell where the entry point was to the market. So that's why we decided to go bold with the red metal panel that you see there. So it almost acts as like a beacon during the daytime with the vivid red color. The idea with those is they would be some type of perforated metal panel system to where we could backlight them, and at night it would glow. Again, being that beacon at day and night. We'll notice two more things about the top image. Next to, it's a little tough to see zoomed out. I'm going to use my mouse here if you guys can see this. These 4 panels here, we're just showing kind of some placeholder artwork, but what we envision those as are almost a canvas for local artists that could be kind of on some rotating schedule. So it keeps things fresh and interesting. You come in March to visit the farmer's market, and then you come back in June and it's completely different. So that's the idea, is we're trying to keep things interesting, keep it fresh, but providing a canvas for local artists to showcase some work. Another thing that we're showing on here, the Downtown Market Plaza signage, we wanted to incorporate some iconic signage into the design. Early iterations, we had it on the building. Really, it was on this face, kind of over the operable doors. The more we got ourselves down into the design and really looked at it, it didn't seem right on that face because it was really just addressing the lawn. That's why we looked at integrating it into the structure for the canopy and just making it kind of that central focal piece to give people a sense of place and really help with wayfinding throughout the site. The next slide, these are just 2 elevations that don't have the canopy in the way, so you can kind of see a little bit how they function. The top one, this is the face that would be facing the market. This is the face here that would be facing the alley, kind of the more back of house that you would have for loading and unloading for events, things of that nature. Talked about the metal panel, the entry point. So another thing with the brick, again, we wanted to keep within the context of current downtown, but we mentioned that we want this project, we see it lasting 50 years, longer than that. It's got to be something that is timeless in design, but also something that's durable, that's going to withstand years of abuse from the elements and just people using the space. So that's why we've chosen to go with a lot of brick on this, just due to the durable nature of brick. On the canopy, one thing I didn't really touch on was the material of the canopy. It's an ETFE material. I had it down earlier. Ethylene tetrafluor. I'd have to look it up again. I'm sorry, I can't remember. It's a plastic material, but it's very strong, and it's resistant to corrosion, which is why you see it in a lot of projects. If you think the Power and Light District, the canopy that they have over that, if you've been to the Ward Parkway Mall, the newer development on the south end, they use the same material. I was in LA for a conference a couple weeks ago, and I had the opportunity to tour SoFi Stadium. They used, I think it was over 3 million square feet of this material on the roof. But what's great about it is if you look at it, it has this kind of frit material on it. It might be tough to see, but if you come up after we're done presenting, if you want to see it. It's translucent, so it lets light in. Whereas if you were to use something more opaque, you're almost just creating a big cave, and we didn't want to do that. We wanted to maintain the daylight in the open lawn area, so that's why we decided to go with that. But talking about those projects, high-profile projects, a lot of designers and clients are choosing to go with this material. Sorry, I just lost my place. So we'll move into Move into the renderings now. These are kind of just some stills that you'd seen from the animation that we played earlier. The first couple ones deal with the site. I'm going to let Darren speak to those for a minute.
Okay, thanks, Dan. So this first upper one on the left, this really shows you when you're up in that upper City Hall plaza and then that overlook area with the clock tower, how you can really look back down into that main market plaza, look in, cross into the lawn, and then there's that really good language back and forth that Dan was referring to. Once you're down in the lawn, being able to look back at City Hall and seeing what we think is a very iconic thing that you already have is that clock tower. So it really ties all this thing back together, that big angle that we have. You can also see how this garden area is centrally in the space. We are showing in this image, you'll see these colorful panels on the top. That's just as a kind of a placeholder for the video and some of the design we were doing. That, in fact, will be something that an artist will come up with and place onto that white structure, those hoops, wickets as we've been calling them. So that'll just be a vessel for art that kind of covers over that garden area that will be a very flexible space underneath. You can see it a little bit better from a different angle here if you're looking from 3rd Street, looking up to the north, seeing that tower, and then seeing that you can see the playground in the background and then the streetscape coming in. And then you get that glimpse of that red always poking out, or that colorful front door to the market. It always kind of lets you know where you're going and where you are. This is that more generous, kind of comfortable, accessible route up to the City Hall Plaza that we were talking about here. We're leaving the trees that are against the City Hall. We're just kind of limiting them up and then replanting some things, showing some different kind of string lights on the top over here to set a good mood coming in to the left. And then there's places and little pockets that people could sit and lounge around and eat lunch, do some work, visit with your friends. Second image here just shows another couple of things. This is that overlook we keep talking about. The clock tower's up kind of to your right, so this is the upper City Hall terrace. This is where we think the speeches will be being made right now. In this picture, we're showing that place is also flexible. We could have tables and chairs that move in and out of there. So it could just be a good place to eat lunch, have a party, visit friends. We can have a drink rail along the top there so you could plug a laptop in, do some things up there to look over. But it's a great overlook into there. This is kind of a shot across the garden. We'll have different kind of plants than these, but you can see that background and what that garden really does to this space and how it really softens it down and makes it a completely different thing than most of us would have imagined. And then taking advantage of these hoops, these structures, the artwork there, we intend to light this structure as well, so there'll be color on that at night, kind of glow. We can change the colors on those as well as having the artwork.
Okay, so Darren talked a little bit about let's just call it the perch, where people could sit and kind of look over everything. This is kind of a view in the top left image of what that might look like. You have the children's play area to the left hand here, but you have that visual connection all the way down the lawn and into the market. This is just a little bit closer view. This is kind of over by the play area, but you can see what this starts to look like and how it all comes together, and really you can just kind of envision that community gathering space. We just want it to be really dynamic for the citizens of Lee Summit. Top left image would be if you're standing under the canopy looking back towards City Hall. Darren talked about that connection with the clock tower. Again, trying to make everything feel like that cohesive design and really the sense of, give you that sense of wayfinding. Image here shows you one of the entry points into the market, the main entry point. I mentioned the metal panels. We're working with Glenda Masters, who's the cultural arts manager for the city, about maybe there's I mentioned, the opportunities for different artists to showcase work on the canvases here in the lower left, but we're thinking there may be an opportunity to incorporate even more art. Maybe that's on the panel design itself. To have somebody from Lee Summit really tell a story and give something to be give something to the people to be proud of, and we're working with her to see if there's a potential to partner with an artist on that. Lower right image just kind of gives you a bird's eye view of how everything really works together. So this concludes our presentation portion of the meeting. So I just want to again thank you all for giving us the opportunity to present all of our hard work on this, and we're excited to be here and look forward to talking more with you about it and answering any questions. And I just want to hand it back over to city staff to go over their report. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, Commission. Shannon McGuire, Senior Planner. Please enter into the record Exhibit A, list of exhibits 1 through 16.
Exhibits 1 through 16 noted and entered into the record.
So this is a pretty exciting project. Excited to bring it to you. I was talking with Josh Johnson earlier today about the lead up to this project, and he kind of used an analogy that, you know, the last few years we've been pulling back that bow and arrow, and we're finally getting ready to release that arrow. So excited to bring this project for you. As the applicant stated, they are seeking approval of a rezoning from CP2 to CBD and approval of a PDP with a conceptual layout to construct that 17,271 square foot farmers market event space with that covered outdoor performance area that they spoke about. So there are office and retail uses located north of the project property. Those are zone T and Z, or transitional neighborhood zone. AT&T Red Racks thrift store is located in a CP2 zone property just to the south of the subject site. T and Z zoned single family homes are located east across southeast Johnson Street. And the CBD zoned Lee Summit City Hall is located just west of the property. In addition to the farmers market and outdoor performance space, the applicant is proposing to remove the Green Street, as they have previously mentioned. So the existing parking garage, proposing to remove Green Street just past the existing parking garage driveway and convert that area to a pedestrian-friendly walkable pavilion with such amenities to include public art, playgrounds, shade structures, some seating areas, as well as programmable passive and active activity areas. The applicant has provided a conceptual layout for the additional 3 pad sites. As you can see here, pad site 1 is to the south, pad site 2 is the north, and pad site 3 will be to the northeast. These include such uses as hotel, restaurant, and multifamily. These pad sites are only shown as conceptual at this time, and no construction may occur on any such property until 1 or more preliminary development plans and final development plans are brought forward and approved in accordance with all UDO standards. So a neighborhood meeting was held here in council chambers on October 23rd. 23 members of the public did attend that. It was an open house format for the neighborhood meeting, and the public was invited to provide any kind of written feedback or comments. The applicant has stated that no written comments were shared by the attendees at that time. Getting into some of the architectural elevations, so great detail was paid to the design and materials used in the proposed farmers market building. Staff had many conversations with the design team and required the form of the structure and materials to be cohesive with the area and the surrounding buildings as a whole. The character and main building material found in our downtown Lee Summit area for commercial buildings is brick. So the design team, for the design of the proposed farmers market building, does take that into account by incorporating brick as that principal building facade material. So in a historic preservation context, when constructing new structures, it should never be the goal to recreate a building that looks old. Instead, you want to design the building, new buildings, so it takes inspiration from historic structures that are around it. So the farmers market does just this. To honor To honor the historic ice house, the proposed farmers market's building's architectural form draws heavy inspiration from historic roof lines and building form of that historic structure. The roof line in the upper section takes inspiration from the roof line of the original stone ice house, while the roof line of the first level takes inspiration from the flat roof lines and the historic additions that were added on later to the ice house complex there. The pilasters and parapet walls of the farmers market does mimic those 1920s edition, and they are somewhat reminiscent of a kind of a battlement or rampart style architecture that you see on the side of the 1920s edition and the back of that. Again, brick is the primary facade material, and that does take heavy inspiration from our utilitarian brick buildings that we do find in our downtown. The applicant, as they stated, have requested the use of architectural metal panels and some extruded aluminum siding on the front of the farmers market building. The design standards for the downtown core area do allow for the use of this material. That does allow for the use of architectural metal or historic metal on facades not fronting on streets. The orientation of the proposed building has the entrance facade set back from Southeast Green Street, thus actually fronting on that pavilion area. So this alignment does allow for the use of this material while still meeting the design standards for the downtown core area. The proposed metal materials are limited to the entrance of the farmers market building and will provide for that prominent gateway entrance into that facility. So staff finds that the use of this material is appropriate, and we do support that as proposed. So, moving into the parking for the proposed uses, the existing 21 parking stalls on Green Street between Southeast 2nd and Southeast 3rd will be removed to make way for that proposed streetscape pavilion area. The loss of these stalls will be negated by the addition of 25 stalls in the proposed alley just behind the farmers market building, as well as adjacent to pad site 1. While still in the design stage, taking into account the rebuild of 3rd Street and Johnson Street, there's also an additional potential for additional 20 on-street parallel parking when we go down that. So this gives the potential for an overall increase of 24 additional parking stalls for the area. Additional parking will be, for the subject site, will be provided by utilizing the existing public parking in the parking garage, as well as the parking lots, public parking lots around, and on-street parking. So in addition, the parking garage currently has 314 parking stalls, and it's directly across the proposed from the farmers market. There are an additional 781 parking stalls within a 3 to 7 minute walk of the facility. So that gives us a total of slightly over 1,000, about 1,100, just under 1,100 parking stalls that are within that short walk. Over half of those stalls are within that 3 minute walk. As you can see here in the rings, the green area is a 3 minute walk from the farmers market location. Blue is that about 3 to 5, and then the yellow is that 5 to 7 minute walk. So the main users for the parking garage are city employees, and they mainly use that particular facility during weekday business hours. Patrons for the proposed farmers market will be utilizing the parking garage largely on the nights and weekends. In the downtown area, vehicle parking requirements apply to the net increase of floor area created by new construction. So when taking into account the 3 structures that we currently have on the site, we have about 19,000 square feet of floor space right now. The proposed farmer market is slightly over 17,271 square feet. So this is actually a decrease in floor space. Considering the complementary peak uses times in the area, the decrease in floor area, the ample amount of public parking in the area, staff does believe a shared parking model is reasonable. The comprehensive plan land use map does identify the site's future recommended land use as activity center downtown. The Downtown Activity Center promotes development that is characterized by its pedestrian-friendly nature and discourages auto-focused uses. comprehensive plan characterizes downtown Lee Summit as the traditional core and heart of the community and does really promote that walkable access to downtown amenities, especially for our residents that live in the downtown residential neighborhoods here. By advocating for additional public services and increasing housing options in the downtown activity center, the plan seeks to increase the ability of additional residents to live and work in our downtown, as well as increase the patronage of local businesses, parks, and events that we do host down here. The proposed PDP did take all these goals into account during the design and has strived to meet or exceed these goals. To continue providing a high quality of services our citizens have come to expect, the comprehensive plan does establish goals of sustaining and enhancing existing future city services and facilities. So the Market Plaza will enhance the community's attractiveness and provide for a desirable place to live and work, as well as visit for outside visitors. The mix of proposed uses will help give additional meaning to the proposed building and area as a whole, by providing a sense of place over there. Our public facilities do allow for our community to grow and prosper in a sustainable direction. The comprehensive plan additionally seeks to create community that celebrates, welcomes, and supports cultural and recreational amenities. Parks, recreation, and cultural resources are critical to achieving the finest quality of life and a safe, fun, and healthy environment. Established objectives for achieving this goal includes increasing the number of residents within a half mile of a park. So the proposed PDP is meeting this goal by adding those additional cultural, parks, and recreational amenities within the downtown. So the comprehensive plan does establish targets to help track the progress toward meeting the plan's projections, goals, objectives, and that community vision. One of these targets set by the comp plan is the goal of adding an additional 950 acres of walkable amenities within the 5 established activity centers. While this proposed PDP is just a small percentage of that overall goal, it does represent a substantial step forward while providing a significant momentum on the way to achieving that goal. A further goal established by the comp plan does call for increasing funding and projects and plans related to art, culture, festivals, and celebrations. The Lee Summit Cultural Plan that was adopted in 2007 and updated in 2006 guides the city's investment in that culture. The Cultural Facilities Survey indicated that 96% of respondents thought there was a need for additional arts and cultural facilities. These respondents identified that the top 3 types of spaces of those types of spaces needed was a space with high quality acoustics, a large stage, and a large lobby or reception area. So the proposed dual purpose of the farmers market event space along with the outdoor performance venue will achieve this long established goal by meeting these needs. So the applicant is seeking 2 modifications. The first modification is to the design standards. In order to create a more dynamic facade, they have included the use of fiber cement panels on the 2nd level of the proposed building. Additionally, the use of this material does help reduce the weight and structural load of that facade, allowing for the design of the interior of the building to remain open. Use of lap siding and cementitious wall panels is consistent with the style and materials that we used in the surrounding area. And this requested modification is substantially similar to modification that have been recently granted specifically to the Ellis Glen and Elevate 114 developments that are located within our downtown. Staff does find the justifications to be reasonable and does support the requested modification. Second modification is to reduce the minimum plant size. We've heard this modification before, but this request does stem from the availability of locally sourced materials. The large plant material size, as required by the UDO, are not really readily available in the local market. In addition to that, the scarcity of those plant materials, the larger materials don't always survive the transplanting process, as well as the smaller sizes. So this modification is substantially similar to modification that has been recently granted for other recent projects. And so for these reasons, staff finds the request reasonable, and we do support that request. So with the conditions of approval as outlined here and in the staff letter, the application does meet the goals of the Ignite Comprehensive Plan, the requirements of the UDO, and the Design and Construction Manual. And so this concludes my presentation. I'll yield for any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Shannon. I will open it up for any public comments on this application at this time. Go before we open up to the commission, Ryan.
Yes, yeah, if you can. Thank you again for the opportunity to present tonight. And I did want to follow up on the RFQ process that was mentioned. We mentioned we would get the details pulled together. So I'm actually going to start and go back a little bit further. We issued an RFQ for a master developer and manager of the complex back on October 30th of 2020 is when those RFQs were due. There was 13 respondents to that process. And out of that, Lane 4 and BRV were selected as that, as far as the master developer and the proposed manager to help with that complex. So they've been on there for a while. There's been a series of other ordinances associated with those contracts as well. For the pre-construction services, RFQ was issued October 27th of 2022. RFP was due November 14th of 2022. Interviews were held November 21st, 2022, and J.E. Dunn, Brinkman, Fogel Anderson, and McCown Gordon were all a part of that process. And then the McCown Gordon contract was second read and approved by City Council on March 21st of 2023. And then that was for the pre-construction services. And then they were recently approved for Guaranteed Max Price 1 for the early civil package. So again, those are all construction items that are really not associated with the rezoning and preliminary development plan, but again, public willing to answer the questions.
We will move on to the commission for questions. Commissioner Rader, if you'd like to start.
Thank you, Chair. I have some questions, well, for my own knowledge. And first one, Shannon, you threw out a lot of parking stalls, different numbers for parking stalls.
Yes, ma'am.
How many total additional parking stalls will we have?
So like I explained, the parking stalls along Green Street here will be removed. And to negate the removal of those stalls, there will be 25 stalls added into the alley, as well as an additional 20 stalls potentially added on 3rd Street and Johnson Street. So that's about 45 additional stalls added.
Okay. So I'm guessing we did some kind of a traffic study or whatever down here, since we're cutting off a street here.
Right. Yes, the traffic study was completed.
Yeah. So when we have these events, it's going to generate quite a bit of traffic and more people. So do we feel good about having just 45 additional stalls and then, cutting? I mean, I know you're cutting off the street, giving the additional stalls, but.
Right. So currently there are 314 stalls located within the City Hall parking garage. That parking garage is also already being currently used by the existing farmers market. I know the proposed farmers market is a great expansion of that. So there are quite a few parking stalls within the downtown area. They're all within that very walkable distance. So staff does feel comfortable with that shared parking model.
Yeah, because I know we have a lot of people that come down during our downtown days and those kinds of things, and so I'm guessing that we will be comparable to something like that as far as people coming into Lee Summit, crowds of people, and having places for them to park.
If I can add just a couple of things. The parking that we're talking about right now are really just for the public components. It does not include any additional parking. Conceptual items that are a part of this application as well. Those will come with the preliminary But to your point about a major event such as a Downtown Days or an Oktoberfest, we're comfortable with that. We're actually adding more parking that is currently not available. That's not to say that everybody that parking is not going to be a challenge during those times, because parking is definitely going to be a challenge. Is really being utilized, but for our kind of our everyday activities and kind of those special events where the special event is confined really to the plaza area and not the entire downtown, we feel that lots across 2nd Street are adequate enough to serve that need. We're also going to monitor the parking downtown. Capital improvement plan. Out years of our capital improvement plan, there is downtown. However, we want to make sure that there's absolute need for that to occur prior to that being programmed.
Thank you, Ryan. And then I had a question about in the concept drawings, you had the additional pad sites, and on one I think you showed a multifamily, and then maybe a hotel.
Correct.
So we don't have anything there as far as that goes right now.
At this point, those are just conceptual.
Just conceptual.
And they're just placeholders. Any construction or any process moving forward will have to come back before this body for approval through a PDP and process as well.
Okay, because I can see how that multifamily could impact a lot of other things as well. I think that was all of my questions. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Arth.
I had questions about parking as well. First of all, that garage space, is that is the land by Dairy Queen, is that where that proposed parking garage would be? Or not proposed, but future?
In the CIP, there's a couple of different locations of potential for that second garage, but that land has not been 100% identified at this point, but there are options in the overall downtown.
Okay, thank you. On the parking, our parking garage here, is it possible to expand that? Is it, if we needed more in this area to have more places closer by?
So our existing parking garage cannot go taller.
Okay, that was my question. I think I have another one, but I can't remember it, so we may have to circle back. Thank you.
Thank you. Normally, I would move on, but to keep Ryan here on parking. So if this was a private development, what would we require for parking?
Janet will take that.
So the UDO standards does specify that for new construction, additional parking needs to be supplied if there's new square footage being added. So with the current square footage of 19,000 square feet, we're coming back with only 17,000 square feet. So we're actually reducing the parking that's already being, or reducing the size of floor area that's out there. So the UDO would not require, if this was a private, any new additional, because the current floor area is already accounted for in the parking for downtown.
Okay. I think if there's a concern, I mean, this has been a long time coming for this project, and it's looking great. I know everybody in this room's been downtown Lee Summit on a Friday night. Adding 40 parking spots is not going to do much. If this is going to be an attraction, it's going to be huge. 3rd Street's packed, Llewellyn's packed, everything's packed. I think we're shorting ourselves on parking a little bit, and I just want to kind of understand what would be the time frame for additional parking.
So that would flow through our capital improvement plan, and that process goes through the Public Works Committee on a basis. It's a 5-year plan, fiscally constrained plan. So we've started having conversations with the Public Works Committee about moving that up and getting the design done and ready to go. So whenever we do kind of hit a trigger point, we could move forward with construction on that. So currently, it's not in the 5-year outlook. It's in the 10-year, 15 years. Michael Park might be able to help me with some of the specifics on that process.
I have a concern of hurting our other fellow folks here in downtown Lee Summit that are tremendously strapped for parking as well. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, Michael Park, Director of Public Works. So it is in the latter third of the 15-year CIP sales tax capital improvement plan. Sales tax was approved in 2017. That's where the City Council has currently prioritized that. It's something, as Mr. Elam had mentioned, we monitor through regular parking studies. We look at the rate of turnover, rate of occupancy and vacancy of all the public parking around. I would just mention on typically any given day, including a weekday or a Friday night, this garage is fairly vacant. I think it's something that we may see some adjustment. Yeah, we're very parked on 3rd Street. We're very well parked on Main Street and Market, near those businesses, near our restaurants, and they're an attractive place that we see people go to, but they don't tend to walk. They don't make that 3-minute walk to our garage, so it does sit with 150 stalls that are unoccupied on most times. I mean, that's what our data is showing us. So we will wait and see how our garage fills up on a Friday night or a Saturday night when the market is open and activities are happening to start to render, maybe to accelerate that next parking structure in downtown.
If I could add to that as well, to Michael's point, based off the data that we have, and I'll say my as well as coming down here frequently, the parking garage is currently underutilized all times throughout the week, Friday nights and Saturday nights as well. So we've thought a lot about that. How can we increase the utilization of that parking garage itself? And so we are exploring ways to make it easier to tell if there's spaces available, increase the signage for that parking garage as well. We already have, over the last few years, increased the lighting inside of that parking garage. So I know probably 3 or 4 years ago that we redid all the lighting and made it probably 2 or 3 times as bright throughout the whole garage to try to increase that. But I believe that we will have a marketing campaign, if you will, as well as some technology to have it be to where everybody can kind of see, oh yeah, there's spaces available here. Michael's got one other comment that I'd like.
I don't mean to continue this conversation too much more, but it's underutilized. We're going to look at some of those, but this project in itself, just the pedestrian plaza, we hope, makes a better connection from the rest of downtown to use that garage. As opposed to just walking a street frontage where right now I come down, I visit downtown on Friday night, Saturday nights, and I do use the garage because there's always a space available. I tend to find myself walking in the alley. It's just not inviting as a corridor to come down to the businesses, but if we have a project like this, I think it makes itself more inviting to use as a garage for the remainder of downtown, especially on the east side of the tracks.
Thank you, Michael.
Hi, Brandon Buckley with Lane 4 Property Group. We're the master developer on the project. And one thing I'd like to add is, this project, we've always looked at it through the lens of what's going to help the downtown businesses thrive. One thing that helps them thrive is walkability. So sometimes people getting out of their car and parking a few blocks away encourages you to walk by other retailers, maybe stop in and take a look. And so the more vibrancy we can get in the street, the more activity. We want people to come early and stay late. We want it to be a destination. So necessarily, if we're talking about a suburban strip center, there's some advantages to parking right in front, walking in, getting whatever you need, and getting out. This area is meant to hang out. It's meant to feel active and vibrant, and so we don't think necessarily walking is always the worst thing. So there's lots of street parking. I know on the, some of the bigger events, there's people wall to wall on the streets, and those events happen a few times a year, but people are able to find parking in the neighborhoods. We want people walking from the houses nearby. We want Ubers coming. We just really want to increase that density because really that is in the best interest of the businesses down here. So wanted to add that. So thank you.
I'll come back. I just wanted to stay on the subject of parking while we were on parking. I'll come back to a few others. Commissioner Trafton.
Thank you, Chair. I know, and thank you for the lovely visuals and all of the passion that's put into this project. I know it has been a long time coming, and it's exciting to see it getting closer to that. So I, too, am wondering, and I know conceptually we're talking about pad 1, 2, and 3, like what's going to go in there, but I just think I'm curious about, like, if we put a hotel on pad 1, like what's the parking what's gonna happen with that? If we put multifamily on pad 3 and we put multiple restaurants, I just am wondering about the parking. I know we can't project, and really what we're talking about is this project right now here in front of us. But I feel like, and I understand we have a plan and that we're working on to get another garage downtown, and that's good. So, but I'm just curious about that.
So when those projects do come forward, we will evaluate and ensure that they meet all UDO standards at that time as well. So again, that was kind of outside of this particular project. So, but it is a concern, and it's something definitely we are taking a look at.
I mean, those pad sites are pretty tight, and I'm trying to figure out, like, if you're going to put, multifamily or hotel bedrooms, you're going to need parking for that, and unless you're going to have them build on top, and I believe, don't we have a height requirement for buildings downtown?
Yeah, the CBD does have a height requirement. If you will look on pad site 3 conceptually, they are showing a drive entrance for underground parking or a parking structure. So that will be addressed at that time.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. The other question I had was, I don't see the sculpture that's currently in the Downtown Plaza and the projected plans. Is there some?
So there are multiple sites within the pavilion area for that sculpture. I don't know that a specific site has been identified, but it will be reincorporated within in the
it will be
area. Yes.
Yeah, I just, because it was missing, I want to be curious that it doesn't just disappear.
There's currently working on plans to relocate.
Okay.
Not only the sculpture, but the Raptor and any other public art.
Okay.
As well as several other opportunities for permanent and rotating kind of throughout.
Thank you. I mean, I do appreciate the thought that's been put into the ability to transition art and make art, a central focus of the plaza. I mean, I think that's a wonderful conceptual idea, and it'll be exciting to see how that works, because I know other areas in the community in downtown Kansas City has transitional art programs and stuff, and I know they happen all over the place. So it'll be really nice to see that incorporated.
To add a little bit more color, if you look at the site plan here, this area right here is envisioned to be a large entryway art piece as you come into the pavilion area. The clock tower is remaining, but looking at opportunities to utilize the facade of that clock tower for potential art space as well. And then as well as the stairs here are projected to be opportunities to include art. And again, the wall of the entry facade into the farmer's market, more art, and then again on the wall itself. And then multiple other pad sites throughout the pavilion area and down, all over. So the wickets is this area right here. So the wickets to create that kind of visual art canopy area that you can walk through and under and around. So.
Thank you, Shannon. The last question I have is around the elevated on the plan. It looks like area 15, the elevated sitting area. That I think was also described as a place for people to have speeches to the community from. I was curious about if, conceptually considering, I love how you have the covered canopy for the recreational area for the kiddos. I was just curious about if that was really going to be an outdoor area for people to gather and work from. Like, have you considered canopying that area as well?
So I would say currently through the design process, we've briefly talked about it, but we had some concerns with the visual impact overall. We've talked about a couple of different kind of pergola, different types of shade structures kind of throughout. Architects may be able to talk a little bit more about that. Darren, maybe. I'm not sure, but I know that we had another piece put in there, and we determined that we could maybe add that later if we needed to. That was a long-winded answer to, we've thought about it, and currently it's not included.
Gotcha. All right, well, thank you for your time. I appreciate your efforts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Jana Ford.
Thank you, Chair. I want to dive a little bit deeper into one of the plans that you've got the numbers allocating what the different experiential nodes are. I don't know if that's going to be Dan or, apologize, the representative from Olson, whomever can best, is it Darren? Sorry. Apologies.
Darren, so we're close. Dan and Darren pretty close.
So I don't know if it's going to be better to flip back to the slide where you had all the keys listed on the far right. Diving into the details here, sorry. Okay, so number 18. Can you describe what the livable portable bollards are? Are those big planters moved?
Yes, so originally we have some flower pots that are along these walkways coming in this main entry, coming into the park on this end, and then even a few more on the other end. We were thinking of those being movable pots with flowers in them, so we could block off some transportation in there as a way. So we were calling them movable bollards or living bollards because they have plants in them virtually. I think we kind of changed from that because we have enough going on where the cars are coming in from the north. We think we've got planters and different things in there, keeping cars and things out of there appropriately now, where those plants these pots can just stay in place.
Okay.
That's what those were. They were try to trademark it and make,
Thought I would ask. So the idea then with some kind of limiting structure element was to keep vehicles from driving in and out during use. So is the idea that there aren't going to be vehicles within the farmer's market? It's just going to be like, here's your stall, you bring your produce, you set it up, and you take it down? I'm thinking like they do Oktoberfest and Downtown Days scenario.
That's a good question because we didn't really talk about that a little bit, but we do have all the services that are going to happen for the market really happen on this back side. So this alleyway and the old alley that comes in behind AT&T, that's really going to be the circulation route to get in there, some parking on the back at the farmer's market, and then more parking inside there so they can unload and do those things. They go park somewhere else. But all that service thing with vehicles really is primarily on the backside where we're away from pedestrians.
Okay. So coming from 3rd Street into that, and you've got listed as 13, it goes right alongside pad site 1. On the site plan, it shows that there's a series of parallel parking spots. Is that considered for that potential pad site 1, or is it for farmer's market, and is it also going to be treated as service parking?
Yes, so that is for the pad site 1. Those spaces are, and then there'll be service along there for that pad site. And this is really the big. That's kind of where the fire lanes and all that happens back there. So
is that one way or is it a two-way?
Right now, it's two-way up on this top part, and then it's just one way. They got to go on out, so this will be drivable two-way. So if you're coming up from 3rd, you can drive on through and go clear over to Johnson. If you're on Johnson, you can come in. That lets you access these unloading zones. Market in pad site 3.
Thanks for that. Now, number 28, what is this movable wall? Move wall at ramp walk.
Oh, so one thing that we're doing right now is outside the chamber, you know, there's that ramp that goes up alongside the curve of the building, and there's a big wall that you're walking in between the building and that wall. We're taking that out, so it makes that walkway a lot more inviting. It makes it open up to the playground. Some of the slope that goes down to the playground, we think we can utilize that hill to kind of have kids roll around and have some fun there with what's going on there. But we're taking that piece out and kind of open it up. We think there's probably a lot of people that don't even walk up that ramp because it's kind of a way to get up to that plaza up there.
Feels not that great.
Yeah.
So on the topic of ramps, you're proposing a complete redo for the entire City Hall Plaza. On the south side, where you've got that grand entry, is there going to be another ramp entrance? I'm only seeing steps up.
Yeah, so in there right now, the way it currently works is you can, on 3rd Street, you can walk straight along this building and you're on the same elevation as that.
Okay.
Road goes down. So we're still keeping that same grade. You're just walking in there flat from 3rd Street going right on in there. Or you can walk down through the garden and get lower, or even use that other one to go to the market. It goes down in the old elevation. We have that one, so that one comes in accessible there, and then that ramp that's along the curve up. And we do have stairs the rest of that way. Really kind of more of now it's a terrace that you can sit on in there versus just being planters and walls. It's a place you can kind of, like a little amphitheater almost.
I like that you can still access from both sides. So now 15, Commissioner Crafton kind of mentioned about it. It's that overlook drink rail. So I come from a sports background and I think of loge seating, but those aren't permanent. Are the seating and tables in this like
They're
temporary?
temporary.
Okay.
Yeah, they're temporary. So that space can really be used for anything. So like even when you were talking about the shade in there, we did get rid of some different things we were trying on this building because the building already provides a lot of shade, and we didn't want to detract from what we think is a beautiful facade on this building. So it's not to say that place couldn't have some umbrellas and different things in it as a portable tables, portable chairs. The drink rail will stay in there. You could stand right up against this and have your computer on it, or have a drink, or have a sandwich, or whatnot, but you could also then bring chairs in and out. All that, make that space whatever you kind of want to make it.
Like a flexible area.
Yeah, and we have kind of a similar one just to the south in this area. It's a smaller one, but the same kind of thing. So you can kind of hang out there, watch people go by that's, down below.
If I could add just a few things to that, really kind of one of the concepts that we've taken into consideration. How can we make this space as adaptable and flexible as possible for a variety of different uses? So we really kind of limited the amount of fixed furniture, if you will. So a lot of the site furnishings that you see are meant to be moved around. They're meant to be utilized for whatever that need is at that time. It does create a bit of a management challenge that we're working through, but that's also why we've also focusing a lot on, I'm going to get really detailed, placement of electrical outlets, access to that power, small event to larger events. Perch, I guess, is kind of what we're calling it. That'll have power so somebody can go put a laptop.
Now this is getting into the farmer's market, specifically the plan. So is there an upstairs to this farmer's market? There's stairs from the back of a house.
There's rooftop access, but there's no.
Okay, no actual second floor.
We have some units towards the.
Okay. So you had mentioned that the corridor, the red, is indicated so you have free access to get to the restrooms. Now, is the idea that it will always be open 24/7, or what does that look like? No? Okay.
No, I don't want to. I don't want anybody to think that we're going to have. The way that the building's been designed, and Dan can speak, there's the ability to say something's going on the plaza area, that the farmers market building itself can be shut off, and you can still have access to the restrooms if needed. That will be managed, so they will not be event, something going on during regular business hours.
Okay. No, that's good to know. Thank you.
Likely be for smaller events, something where you don't need the farmer's market space. I would imagine most times you have a large event down there, you're probably going to have the farmer's market open to where you can utilize the lawn and the enclosable space.
Okay. Thank you. If you can flip through one of the renderings.
Sure.
I'm sorry to get really detailed, but can you kind of go through why the color for that accent architecture piece is red? I've always thought the Lee Summit color was more of that nice olive green.
We went through several different iterations, and like I'd said, it kind of came from a conversation with city staff and the mayor. Just there wasn't obvious where the entry point was. So we did look at different colors, but we went with this because it was bold and you can't mistake it. I mean, that's you know where you need to go. We said that we wanted it to be, beacon is the word that we keep throwing out. So during the daytime, it's the bright, vivid color. It invites you into the space. And at night with the backlit panels, it would glow and still provide that, be that beacon for the area.
Okay. Now that makes
Really, I mean, it was more of a, I guess, of a wayfinding and sense of place choice for the material.
No, that makes sense. I was just curious. Last question. I understand, and this might be a city staff question, I'm not sure, so I'm going to ask anyway. The requirement is to have brick on the street facades, but knowing we've got pad site 1, 2, and 3 coming, and not knowing what the development is, and knowing that we're trying to keep our buildings up to date, make them inviting, are we potentially limiting ourselves to what those facades could look like by having this particular building be majority brick?
I would say that.
Stump you?
No, I'm trying to articulate it so it like I know the answer, but I'm trying to form the words here. So, you know, the real character of the downtown is that brick, and so our design standards do require 2 stories of brick on all the facades fronting on a street. So now, recently we have the 2 projects more recently, the Elevate 114 and Ellis Glen, have come in and said, hey, you know, to provide a more modern and a better approach, we want to modify that so we can give some undulation, some movement to that brick. So we do have that opportunity to seek those modifications that have, you know, past precedents to modify that. So once those projects do come in, it's definitely something we will review and have discussions with the developer at that time. So while yes, the hard line is 2 stories, we have redress to modify that and allow for those variations.
You're talking specifically about the future pad site 1 through 3, not this particular facade. Is that right?
Correct.
That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tuzinski.
Mr. Chairman, just got one quick question. Will the artificial turf underneath the overhang where the Downtown Market Plaza sign is, will that be a part of the farmer's market? Will there be stalls or tables of additional storage places under there, or is that only to be included within the building?
So the farmer's market can expand into that area, yes, depending on the demand and the time of season. So all the doors along the edge here are roll-up doors, so we can get that expansion and have that free flow, as well as the doors on this side have roll-up doors as well, so we can get more expansion and ease of inload and outload through there. So,
Is there, and maybe this is too much in the weeds, but is there a way to clean that artificial turf? Because I mean, if you've got people selling food and kids dropping things and adults dropping things, at Oktoberfest, people dropping beers, is there an opportunity to clean that as opposed if you're having food sales in that? And then the next day you have people come in and wanting to sit on it to watch a concert. You know, it just seems kind of.
I will say that no one in Lee Summit drops beer, so.
Oh, I worked at the beer tent. They do drop beer. I'm just saying, I drop beer.
I'll let
so.
the architects address that.
Yeah, thank you.
We do always have water on anything that we do with artificial. On this one, there are water bibs and things on.
Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Ryan or Shannon can probably, Shannon, I'll get you real quick. Is there a separate sign application for this?
At this time, the sign package has not been fully developed out, and we will review it at the time when that comes through. So if we do need to seek modifications, we'll come before you with a sign application.
So understanding this is city building. We're asking.
Correct.
City will own and operate this.
City will own the building, and Chapter 353 Redevelopment Corporation that they will assign those operational rights to. There's rationale and reasoning for kind of a complex legal structure, I guess, for the long-term operation and maintenance of it. But as far as the ownership of the building, yes, the city will own this building, similarly to how the city owns the building.
Functions that happen here will be under the guidance of the city. Someone else is not going to be providing concerts and things of that. This will be the city's venue to use at the city's discretion.
So that will be all part of an operations and management agreement associated with that. So the city does not plan to be the ones that are setting up the events for this. We are setting up a structure to where there, so they will have their days, and the downtown then individual events throughout the whole area will be in coordination with the city, but more likely coordination with
So I guess the question will be, will the city have control of the events? This is an awesome project. I don't think we need a Friday night super rock concert going on in our downtown Lee Summit.
So I'm just being careful with the word control. The city will definitely have contractual relationships that will. The city will have ultimate approval authority, not be the ones operating the events.
And then will this be a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day accessible space? Somebody will be policing it?
We are thinking the hours will be for the area 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. But that being said, the building itself may not keep those. associated with that, the building itself. Plaza is obviously open public space, similar to a park.
Okay. One other question for, I think it was Dan who talked about the material that's on the canopy. What was that called again? I tried to write.
ETFE, I just looked it up, ethylene tetrafluoroethylene.
Not
Sounds a
gonna
little
fade and
repetitive,
look like
but
crap like Power and Light does.
no, I mean, it's high up enough that you're really not even gonna notice it. I could send you some pictures that I took when I was at SoFi. I mean, you can't even tell that it's up there, but it just really, it provides nice filtered light throughout the space. Was we looked at different options for that, and you know, we have ways of simulating materials in our computer programs, and just if you're doing something that's opaque, it turns it into that big cavern, and I don't think you want that.
Right.
So that's why we chose this material. It's the company we're working with. I don't know if I mentioned it or not. It's actually a local company called Structure Flex. They're here in Kansas City, so they've done projects like this all over.
On that, the event space, is that going to be available for private events, for rental?
That is the plan.
Okay, thank you.
We could coordinate, that would be able to be coordinated with like school events and different things like that. School concerts, different things like that could happen in this space as well.
Yes, there's nothing that would prohibit that per se. But that'll all kind of be spelled out, and there'll be processes and procedures and operations for how the space gets utilized, what the rates are, and different things like that. There will be a number of different say rate options, but you know, a nonprofit organization, for example, will likely pay a different rate than say somebody that wants to have a wedding in that area.
Perfect. So I guess that was kind of part of my question from earlier. So somebody rents this space out for a wedding.
They can.
Then it's closed to the public.
For that event, it would be.
Okay, we will close the public hearing and open up for discussion or a motion. Commissioner Tuzinski.
Mr. Chairman, first off, I want to say to the city staff, Public Works, you guys are doing a great job on this project. I know working with Public Works on an associated project, how hard they're working on that underground box culvert, you know, that's being replaced. And so they're doing a great job. I appreciate all that. I like the idea. I like the concept. I wish there would have been some thought into maybe doing some underground parking underneath the building, maybe with some future accessibility that it could tie to a potential hotel, tied to a potential multifamily, tied to the existing garage, maybe that other restaurant building to the north. I wish there would have been a little thought into that. That way, I mean, we are a four seasons community. I mean, we have rain and snow and everything else. So it would be nice to be able to have some movement from parking into the facility and back. Kind of like I'm also thinking like downtown Kansas City by the Mulebach, by the other hotels there. They have that big central underground parking, and underneath you can kind of walk to each of the buildings without having to really go outside, especially in wintertime. But overall, I think this is a great amenity. I look forward to get down there, and I think for the associated zoning that we're going to pass, I think it's appropriate for that. Thank you.
I think this is a great project. I'm really excited. I was basically born and brought up. I too went to Lee Summit High School, by the way. But the only thing I'm not so sure is just having the majority being brick. I really just don't want to limit ourselves. I like new trends, and my daughter will probably not like brick when she gets older. I don't know. But I think it's just something we should probably incorporate and consider with it being so close to the potential other sites. Now, for parking. I have to say, I really like the convenience of parking, but I've been to several other cities, same caliber as Lee Summit, and they have none. So comparatively speaking, we're very lucky to have as much parking as we do. And I prefer walking. I need more steps, but I do tend to shop more when I'm walking by buildings and different boutiques, and I get hungry when I walk, so then I go into a place to eat. So, you know, I don't think parking is that big of a deal. And then, Chair, you'd mentioned you were a little hesitation with the venue being closed. We have so many parks in the area that are closed for birthday parties. I don't think it's really any different. I'm just trying to put things in perspective. So I don't think that's a big deal. I think it's going to be great. I remember when the Stanley came, people were so excited to have a wedding there, and I think this will be something similar where, like, you have a friend, oh, you're getting married in the farmer's market, and it's just going to be a really cool place that people are going to want to experience, and you know, maybe have cocktails and conversations in here, networking events, etc. So I think it's a really good project, really well thought out, great experience nodes, and I'm excited. That's all. Thanks.
Commissioner Rader, any comments for him?
I think it's great, and I'm excited about it. Thank you.
I think it's a wonderful project, and I'm really excited about it. And I think it's really nice to have a beautiful venue like this for events, public and private. I love the art, and even the attention to the detail, even with the lighting, the string lights. I think with the parking, I do believe that we'll see an uptick in the use of the garage, and I agree, it is underutilized right now. It just begs the question, and this is probably not just about this application, that it's based on square footage of the square footage of the space that is being developed. I'm thinking that maybe, and this is maybe just something to think about for the future, density should also probably be considered in that, because the square footage of a building, of those buildings that are there now don't have the density that this is going to have. But I think that we'll evolve as a city to adjust for the parking. So I'm really excited about this.
Thank you, Commissioner Arth. Before I turn it to Mr. Trafton to lead us in some sort of a motion, this is awesome. I was part of what was going to happen in 2013, and Darren, we're going to hold you to everything if it doesn't look like what it looks like in these drawings. My only few hesitation is I think we're asking the community to come together and do this project. And I'm persuaded that we need this to be more for the public than some sort of private event space. The brick, I'm up in the air, as Commissioner Janice said. I think the only thing, and don't take this wrong, I love the mayor, he's a great guy, but the red looks like we're going to a nightclub. If we could, the olive green is something, maybe some wayfinding, something to the entrance. The red is just, I mean, it looks great in the renderings, but I just think it's kind of nightclubish going in. But hey, maybe it could be a great club. Chiefs red, good point, good point. No, this is awesome, guys. I appreciate it. All the hard work that everybody's done. And again, Darren, this is on you, man. This is what it's got to look like. Commissioner Trafton, it's all you, bud.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I too am also super energized by this project. I'm glad to see it moving forward. And I can't wait for it to happen. I did have some trepidation with the way the building was kind of angled, but you did a nice job explaining why you did that, and I'm kind of sort of convinced. So I actually like the brick, and I think it's a nice tie to the rest of the downtown area. So thank you for that. With that, Chair, I will offer I move to recommend approval of application PL 2023-196, commercial rezoning with preliminary development plan and conceptual plan, Downtown Market Plaza, 201, 205, and 220 Southeast Green Street, 205 and 208 Johnson Street, and 200 and 202 of Southeast 3rd Street, Lane 4 Property Group applicant.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Could I get a vote, please?
Cinda Rader,
Aye.
Dana Arth,
Aye.
Donnie Funk,
Yes.
Terry Trafton,
Yes.
Tanya John Ford,
Yes.
Chip Tazinski.
Yes.
The application has been recommended for approval. Thank you, guys. We are going to take a 5-minute recess, maybe quicker, but we will resume in about 5 minutes. We will resume back to our public hearings, and we will open up item B in our public hearings, application PL 2023-221, preliminary development plan, Chick-fil-A drive-through expansion, 690 Northwest Blue Parkway, Chick-fil-A Inc. applicant. Anyone wishing to speak or provide testimony on this application, please stand and be sworn in at this time. Thank you. The applicant has a presentation for us. Come forward and give us your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Alan Wiley with GBC Design, 565 White Pond Drive, Akron, Ohio, 44320. Thank you. Good evening. This is a Chick-fil-A project. It's an existing restaurant. They will be modifying their drive-through, which is a major reason for the project, to include a full 2-lane drive-through from the beginning of the drive-through all the way to the past the pickup window, and then it'll merge back into a single lane coming back around the building. As part of that expansion, they will be installing a canopy over top of the order stations, order station here, order station here. They will have people out there taking orders with iPads. The reason for the canopy is to protect those people with the iPads from the weather. They will also have a canopy installed over the pickup window. Pickup windows in this area, canopy extends both forward and after the pickup window. Again, so people can run food to the customers as they come up to get the food. They will be able to access the outside lane via the striped aisles that go across the inside drive-through lane. As part of this project, the ADA parking that is currently up along the building here and becomes very unusable during peak drive-through times, we are going to be flipping that over to here, so it'll be more usable with a through access drive adjacent to it that will not be backed up with drive-through traffic. Due to our neighborhood meeting, we had a couple people, Red Lobster and Olive Garden, comment that they would like to see some striping in this area to hopefully not have this location blocked here with the cars exiting or entering the drive-through. So we added some striping due to that meeting to hopefully help alleviate any concerns that they had. Here for any questions if you guys have any other ones.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening, Hector Soto Jr., Senior Planner. I'd like to enter into the record Exhibit A, list of exhibits 1 through 14.
14 noted and entered into the record.
So, as has already been mentioned, this application is for a driveway expansion application for the Chick-fil-A site. They're at the southwest corner of Southern Crossing and Blue Parkway. So here you see the site highlighted with the yellow star. You have the adjoining Olive Garden and Red Lobster pad sites to the south, and all three of these businesses do share this main drive coming off of Southern Crossing. Close-up of the existing facility. As many frequented this restaurant are well aware that the current facility does have it has a double order area that does merge back down to a single lane that circulates counterclockwise around the building. There are 2 stripe lanes here, but as is evident somewhat in this particular photo, during the busy times, the queues or the stacking on both of these double drives does back up, making these parking spaces inaccessible, as has already been stated. So this application the intent of the application is to help ameliorate some of these congestion issues. Well, at this drive here, that does impact the adjoining businesses to the south, and also provide some additional capacity to free up or to resolve some of these conflicts that we do have with on-site circulation with the Chick-fil-A site. So this has already been presented. What this will do, with this application, there'll be 2 dedicated double drives that will require the relocation of the existing parking spaces there from the west side of the building, further west across this drive. There'll be about a 20-foot wide through drive that will parallel these existing queue lanes. So there'll be enough backing area in order to facilitate the movement in and out of these spaces that are parked at around a 60-degree angle. So one of the things is that originally when this site was developed, it did always have the double order stations. However, the entrance into that was more of a single lane. So the additional striping that has been since provided does provide more direction and does alleviate some of that confusion that may exist there from having the double drives being fed by that single lane. But by doing so, it's really also made these spaces here somewhat inaccessible, and that striping that has been provided really just leaves about a 10-foot area if all of these are parked here. So we're not talking about impact on the west side, immediately on the west side of the building, but also the one that's mirrored on the further west across that drive aisle. So here we have kind of the comparison side by side. So you'll see here that you do have that dedicated dual drive facility that circulates around the south and east side of the building. Now, with this particular solution, the site, it's a fixed site. There's only a finite amount of space in which, in order to provide some sort of relief for those, to provide some additional queuing area or stacking area for the double drives. So with this application, the existing edge of pavement here for this drive-through facility is about 22 feet from the property line, which is denoted here in red. So in order to provide this additional parallel lane, talking about a reduction to about 7.62 feet at its closest point, which is the basis for the request for a modification request for the 20-foot setback from the public right-of-way. So with this improvement, it will still yield about an 18-foot of separation from the edge of pavement to the nearest travel lanes. So you'll still have the 5-foot parkway between the edge of pavement or of the travel lanes, a 5-foot sidewalk, and you'll still have an additional thereabouts about another 7-foot thereabouts of additional green space there. So in total, we're still talking about an 18-foot of separation to the nearest travel lanes. As has been alluded to, there was a neighborhood meeting which was attended by area businesses most directly impacted by existing conditions on the site. There are 2 conditions of approval, the first one being that modification that was alluded to allow a 7.6-foot parking setback from the Northwest Blue Parkway right-of-way. So with that, I'll yield to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Hector. Hector, could you leave the... Before I jump to, I don't see anybody. So the plan is to move the order stations that were currently on the south end of the building to the middle of the parking lot in front of the entrance.
Correct.
Public, got any comments on this? Then I will move to the commission for questions. Commissioner Tuzinski.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Hector, yeah, I do have a few questions. I do have some concerns, and I love Chick-fil-A. Actually, I was there this morning getting breakfast, so I don't know how often you guys go, but I go a lot. So check my bank statements on that one. But I do have concerns, and I don't think this plat addresses the concerns. It addresses their concerns to help move the people through quicker, but the problem is these 2 lanes of queuing traffic backs up 2 lanes wide all the way to their entrance, okay? And currently, they're only showing a one-way in, one-way out entrance there. That's never been, since this opened, that's never actually been ever in place. It's always been 2 lanes in, 2 and 1 lane out, and that 1 lane actually cuts in front of the trash enclosures. It cuts across all that parking on the north side, and then it exits out. So I like what they're doing, but I don't think they've really addressed really what happens on a day-to-day basis, especially during the rush times here. And so I think this, in my opinion, I think this needs more work and some additional thought put into it because, like I said, people love Chick-fil-A. They are so busy, and it doesn't surprise me that they have concerns from the other landowners. There are renters that have like the Olive Garden and the Red Lobster and that because it does back up. And again, this gets them queued, but they've always been able to queue 2 lanes, you know. So I don't know. I just have concerns with the 1 lane in, the 1 lane out, and showing parking that's never used for parking. I mean, you could go there right now. I mean, it was as of 8:30 this morning, a line of cones that forced people to go across that parking to exit. I just assumed they get rid of the parking and make it a drive lane, or reconfigure that island that's right there across from the entry into the Dell. Reconfigure that to get rid of that to add the 2nd lane, because as it's shown here, it never works that way. I don't know. I don't know if you have any answers or the engineer can answer that, but it never works the way it's shown on this plan.
Go ahead.
Real quick with that, the drive-through that we have set up here now will be able to hold 30 cars roughly in there. We're also adding a faster, more efficient way of getting the food out of the kitchen to allow cars to move more quickly through the drive-through. So backing up, I don't know which mouse it is. So the whole goal of making the double drive-through lane and this additional way to get the customers their food to move the drive-through more quickly is to eliminate the backup in this area and try to pull any cars that are stacking here into the drive-through lane. That's the main goal of this. We went through many iterations with different drive-through configurations, eliminating even coming through here. We were taking the drive-through this way, and we had roadblocks with adjacent property owners doing those options, so we kind of have to keep this same drive-through configuration. But the whole point of it is to move cars more efficiently through the drive-through.
Is there, I mean, and Susan, you can answer this question. Does Vista model, can you Vista model this to show if it actually does work better? Because I don't know how to I mean, what we're going on, and I'm a civil engineer too. I design roads, I don't do traffic, and I don't do site development, but I do, and it's like, so all we're going on is, well, this is gonna help us. And I don't know if it really is. I hope it does, but, and I know you're confined to the site, what you can do on the site, but you know, we have to accept a decrease in the setback to help you do this, and still don't know if it's gonna back up. I mean, is there anything that they can do to kind of model it to show that it's gonna work faster?
I have not heard of anyone modeling a parking lot.
This is Chick-fil-A.
I wanted to point out, in this picture, you could actually see the cones on here.
Right.
You can see that black car kind of going around the cones. So
Yeah, and so, I mean,
exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Shortening that island is not ideal because that removes that throat distance, and so that causes other problems with traffic entering into the site. I think the big difference is the double drive-through goes all the way around to the pickup window. So you are getting additional cars in there. I don't go there as often as you do. I don't know that I've been to this location, to be honest, but, so there is additional capacity on the back side where they're picking up food.
I think from I'm gonna jump in and help you. We're in a public hearing and we need to be asking questions instead of making comments. So I think that to help you, is the question that you would like to see is to continue this application, to have them come back with a model that shows their stacking process?
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, yes. I mean, I've been at this Chick-fil-A where they've had 3 lines in operation, and they've had the 3rd line actually going into the, I can't point to it over here, but on the outside, and people running food across the crosswalk to get more people through. I mean, I know this gets a lot of traffic. I don't know what more that they can do to show us that's gonna work other than us taking their words. That's their word for it. So that's where my concern is.
And I think the question here, I guess, for the engineer is you're actually moving your backup further back to create a larger backup, I think, in the opinion of the commission, because you get mom and 5 kids up there to order in one lane and mom and 6 kids in the other lane, and everybody's arguing over what they want. Now we got 30 cars back here, and I think, not to pick on the moms, it could be the dads. Could be the dads too. But I think from our perspective, it's not making sense that it's going to work. And I think what we would like to see is, I guess, Chip helped me out here. We can move this along. What I don't like to see is you use the picture with all the cones in it and you're blocking off your parking spaces. And I feel like we have a giant, and I don't know who we have here from the police department or who we have here from the fire department, but you stack up 10 cars in here. We can't get someone inside fast enough in an emergency situation with this. It's a bad site. I'm just going to be blatantly honest. It's a bad site for Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is hopping. It's always hopping. We know it's hopping. I drive by there every day. 10 times my office is down the street. I think we need to see something else. This isn't going to work.
If I can speak to the traffic question, not in this not on this project, but on other projects throughout the country, our traffic engineer has modeled, they've actually counted the amount of time it takes for a car to get through the drive-through, and adding the second drive-through lane on the outside, the full lane, has increased the capacity of that drive-through. I don't have numbers right here, but we have shown that it does help, it does work, for what we're trying to do.
Did they, and sorry to interrupt, but when they modeled it, did they model it by moving the order places back as far as you've moved it back? Because I could see if you move the order places further up, then you've got the queue behind you and you can order, and granted, it does take time to produce the food. I get you. But you're moving it back so much more, and you're having your people standing, and I know that they don't just stand there. They leapfrog and they're always moving. But I agree. I think that's one of the issues is they're moving it back, but then the queue then will become back down and out. So, but then you've got the space after the queuing part, the stopping part, and
yeah, we had the order stations here originally, kind of where they are currently. We can't build the canopy with a curve on it to get around that so that they wouldn't be protected for the people out there to take the orders. And like you mentioned, they're not just standing here taking orders.
Yeah.
The orders are coming upstream as far as they can.
Yeah.
And so it's all, Chick-fil-A is not going to go through this expense to do this without having it make an improvement. They know there's an issue getting cars into the site and through the drive-through, and that's what they're trying to accomplish with this project. This is the best option we currently have.
Good evening. I'm Lance Spencer. I'm the local owner-operator. I live here in Lee Summit. 690 Northwest Blue Parkway is the business address. So, Chip, you've identified it. It's exactly as we talk about drive-through operations and business operations, we've invested tens of thousands of dollars. We have consultants that literally only focus on this part of the business because if we get this right, It's a huge part of our customer base. So it's a bottleneck that once you move it to the next, then you create another issue that you have to solve, and then you create another issue that you have to solve. So a couple points of clarification. The first is this is certainly post-COVID. Our sales channels changed drastically during COVID, and so that's when the cones came out. There was actually a couple days we were 4 lanes wide when we had no dining room whatsoever, and so a lot of creative thinking. Some of those customer behaviors have stuck around. So we have a higher concentration, a higher percent of drive-through. It's stayed around. We didn't think it was going to stay around, but it has. So we are a drive-through heavy business, probably sometimes over 70% on any given day. So that's it. The other clarification point is that we no longer have a window. In January, we had a 2-week closure construction project, and it's a door. So that helps us with operational efficiency, because if we have an order ready for the third car in line and we're waiting on some fresh waffle fries for the first car, they walk out the door and can hand it to the third car. So all of these questions and things you identify, that's what I get to do. That's what my team gets to do on a day-to-day basis, saving seconds, talking about Lean Six Sigma, talking about efficiencies. So we'd love to have you on the team as consultants to help us figure it out. But this is a long time coming, a lot of conversations, and for our footprint, would love to have a bigger footprint, but for our footprint, this is where we landed.
Thank you. Chip, I guess my question for you is, we're here in public hearing, I can get any questions from, I think all the questions are gonna be the same from the commissioners in regards to a solution to make this work. We can close the public hearing and have a discussion and move this to a continuance, but I think we need to give the applicant something to what we want to see from them. I'm 100% in agreement with you. I'm probably a no on this because I just don't think it's going to work any. I think it's going to be worse than what was there before. Hoping Chick-fil-A understands we have to be good neighbors to everybody, and there's no denying. I mean, there's one way in and one way out. People are lazy when it comes in. They're going to turn in there and they want to turn in, and they're going to wait until they can get in there, and you're taking traffic flow away from the other places. I agree with what you said. It's a very strategic site. I don't know what else you can do. I don't think this is going to work, but I guess the question is what would you want to see from them? A different design? Do you want to go back to the drawing board?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I guess, Susan, if you could come, I'm sorry, Amy, did you need?
I would suggest in lieu of doing a continuance, maybe take a 5-minute break so we can chat with the applicant.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. We could take another quick little break if you guys want to visit. I think we're in public hearing. We should be asking questions. I think
They have questions.
Okay. We'll jump on with the questions. Don, do you want to hear out the rest of the questions, and then we'll do that? Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I guess I'll defer to Tanya.
Here, Jana Ford, do you have a question?
I don't want to nag on a dead horse per se, but you had mentioned that the canopy, you can't do curves. I've seen plenty of places that are able to kind of stagger them and create an emulated. That's something to consider, or was it not cost effective to do 2? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, Chick-fil-A typically likes to keep them square. Once you start getting into the turns, they find with the drive-throughs, the cars just, the columns are in this, so the columns on this canopy, they are up against the building, and then they're actually on the outside of the curb. For this canopy, they're right on the outside of this curb, but then they're in the middle here. And when you start doing these turns and we start having larger vehicles go through, they start getting really close to that canopy. Sometimes they hit the canopy, and they're trying to avoid that in that curve situation, trying to keep that canopy from getting hit. That's why they don't like to do them.
Okay, no, that
But
makes sense.
instead they can't, they don't like to.
Good. No, that's a good clarification. Thank you. That's all.
I did want to mention, one of the options that we looked at with this drive-through was taking it and actually trying to put an access off of this main access drive-through here. The reason we didn't do that is this actually makes a longer drive-through queue by the time you get it onto kind of what everybody thinks is a Chick-fil-A site. You know, this is a shared access drive that goes back to Red Lobster and Olive Garden here. So once they turn on here, the only people they're affecting is Chick-fil-A once they're on, you know, past this point right here. If we were to take this drive-through and come off over here to try to eliminate some of this congestion in this area, that has a greater potential to start backing up into this main access drive and then really affecting the two adjacent property owners. That's why we did this, because it actually makes that drive-through length all the way back to here. Just wanted to point that out. We did think about that.
Thank you. Commissioner Trafton.
Thank you, Chair. I did have a random thought, but I'll save it for I mean, I guess I'll give it to you before break, but I mean, was there consideration of going down the lane and then snaking it back through that other section and making, you know, so it's like a little snake, so you're moving the traffic? Because I actually don't go there because there's so much traffic to get in and out of there because it's just inconvenient. But I know lots of people do every day, and I'm always seeing traffic that goes like way out down the street, and you can't even get into the Red Lobster and Olive Garden, even not that I'm going there either. But anyway, have you considered the snake? Have you guys considered the snake in your traffic study, like snaking it through that other section you have of parking?
Yeah, over the course of, we've had this conversation for about 6 years trying to figure this out. And one of the options we considered was an immediate right-hand turn as soon as you get on the property and looping back towards the car wash and back around. If there was an option, we've considered it. Ultimately, we're constrained by our neighbor's property, and our queuing cannot go on our neighbor's property. The other constraint we have is the common access street. We have an agreement with our neighbors there that to not block that or use that for our exclusive purposes. It's got to remain open for their business as well.
So you're saying that the only, like, you don't, I'm just looking at the gray. I thought, don't you have that little short, like, section island that's 6 spots out there that it looks like you turn left into? Yeah, I mean, couldn't you make that part of your queuing lane and snake it around and all that kind of stuff? I mean, it could still be single even, but at least you're creating.
I don't think that's creating anything more than what we currently have on our site.
It's giving you probably about 6 more cars in a line.
Yeah, here versus here though, really, right?
No, it's still going to be in there. It's just going to turn down and go all the way out there. So I don't know. Just a thought.
I guess
I'm not a traffic engineer or any kind of engineer, and I'm not a Chick-fil-A consultant. So I know that you guys have mastered this all over the country, and I know that you have double and triple lanes all over the place. I also agree this lot is probably not the best lot for this location. Have you considered opening another Chick-fil-A in Lee Summit so that we could alleviate traffic into this one?
And yeah, we are actively considering another option in Lee Summit to help relieve some of the capacity constraints. In an ideal world, we'll have 2 locations, both, running a reasonable amount of business. So
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you for considering that.
Welcome.
Find a bigger lot so you can have more.
Yeah, yeah.
You already know the demands here, so.
We do. We love Lee Summit, but yeah, we certainly would like.
Okay, great, thank you. My last question is around landscaping. I didn't see any landscaping on there. Does it eliminate the sidewalk as well? Does it push it out to the sidewalk? Is there a wall? I just am not clear on what that looks like. I can't tell, but did it eliminate the sidewalk or does it go up to the sidewalk? Do you know?
No, there's still landscaping between the drive-through and the sidewalk.
I'm just not seeing it. Maybe I missed the landscaping plan. Did I miss it? I could have. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Are those tall arborvitaes? What are those?
I don't know if they're tall, but they're, no.
Well, usually they start around 6 feet, but then they can get a lot taller.
They've got, well, here you can kind of see the call out. So they've got a number of different types of shrubs or low-growing
Yellow
vegetation.
anise.
They've got some inkberry, forsythia. So they have different varieties of landscaping that
Okay.
they're planning to plant
Well,
there.
arborvitae might be something to consider. That'd be nice there for some screenage. So we don't all have to look at the cars in queue getting their Chick-fil-A stuff as we drive by. Anyway, all right, that's all my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Arth, Commissioner Arth.
No questions.
Commissioner Rader.
No questions, thanks, Chair.
Hey, do you want us to close the public hearing and take the break, or do you want to leave it open?
Was it?
Okay, we will close the public hearing. We will take a 5-minute break and let you chat it up. We'll come right back.
I know.
So we will continue our public hearing. Any other questions? Oh, did we close it? Okay, we're closed. Any discussion, or we will look for a motion?
Can I ask a quick question?
I can reopen the public hearing. We just closed it because we were taking a break. I'll reopen the public hearing. Go ahead with your question.
Thank you. I don't know if this was really touched on, but the relocation of the canopy and the takeout boards, how many anticipated queue or cars behind the actual menu kiosks are there? Just give me a rough number so I can have an idea.
Like probably 4 to 5 cars in this lane, and then probably 4 cars for sure in that, so 8 or 9.
Before they get to the actual menu takeout board? Okay. Thank you. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think the only question I have is, do you have a concern having this right smack in front of your entrance? No traffic, little kids going back and forth, somebody trying to get across from the wheelchair and the other person pulls up close to the other person. No concerns at all?
No concern. Chick-fil-A does this all over the place. We have the correct crosswalks here. Cars typically move quite a bit slower in this area. It's well lit at night, so that's not a concern because of the lights under the canopy.
I will close the public hearing and open up for discussion. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I really do like Chick-fil-A. I've said that many times, probably too many times. I just have a concern of where the placement of the proposed order kiosks are going to be. I think there should be additional queuing space behind them. I like them in their initial position. I understand that you don't have coverage for your staff there, but when you get busy, I think the only staff person that was up in that area was the one telling which car to go first. Nope, whatever. There's no reason why you couldn't have your staff still under the overhangs during your busy periods, because they're already leapfrogging, up the queuing lane already. And quite honestly, I've had my order taken as far out as where the trash enclosures are, and that was probably just last week. So I think for me, I think there's more work that needs to be done. I think those order kiosks need to be moved further up the queue. I know there's a certain amount of time that you need between the order and the delivery of the food. And I think you guys know what time that is. So when your slow spot, in your slow times when you need that, you can place them there for that. But I know during the busy times, you're not using those kiosks anyway. And I think that's the point when we need the max amount of queuing. So I don't know. It is a tough decision for me. I'm still thinking of how I would vote on this, but that's what's in my mind right now. Thank you.
Commissioner.
It's comment time. Chair, I'm actually thinking they know what they're doing. They do this all over the country. This is not the ideal spot for a Chick-fil-A just because of how compact it is. So I am excited they're looking at a second location in Lee Summit, and they're going to find a more roomy space to manage traffic flow. But I feel like they're going to improve the efficiency. I have heard people say how quick it is that you can get through there. I'm hoping this will alleviate traffic on Blue Parkway trying to get in there. But I'm not convinced that will happen, but I believe this is an improvement over what we have. And we all know, and the gentleman who's been studying this for 6 years has said, they have been working on this issue at this location. So, I'm in support of moving this forward, and thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner Arth.
I'll just say that I concur with Commissioner Trafton.
Rader?
I can make a motion if you're ready, unless you want to discuss some more, Donnie.
Go ahead.
Okay, I move to recommend approval of application number PL 2023-221, Preliminary Development Plan, Chick-fil-A Drive-Through Expansion, 690 Northwest Blue Parkway, Chick-fil-A in Inc. Applicant.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, could I get a vote?
Cindy Rader,
Aye.
Arth,
Aye.
Donnie Funk,
No.
Terry Trafton,
Yes.
Adjournment Ford,
Yes.
Chip Telzinski.
No.
Application has been recommended for approval. We will move on to item C and open up public hearing, application PL 2022-357, rezoning from RP2 to CP2 and preliminary development plan Take 5 oil change, 400 Northeast M-291 Highway, Driven Assets LLC applicant. Anyone wishing to speak on this application and provide testimony, please stand and be sworn in at this time. Thank you. Applicant has a presentation for us. Please come forward and give us your name and address for the record.
Yes, Todd Menace with Driven Assets, 240 Cactus Court, Boulder, Colorado, 80. That's yours, right? I just thought tonight, appreciate you guys sticking with me. This is a little bit, that earlier plan was very impressive.
Just don't know how you drew that last straw. No.
I'm the littlest guy in the room right now, you know? I do know Biederman, Dan Biederman, and you guys have got a world-class group between Lane 4 here in Kansas City and Biederman and his team. They know what they're doing, and I was just very impressed, just with the plan that they've come up with. All right, just to introduce myself, I'm with Driven Assets. We're the franchisee for Take 5 Oil Change here in Kansas City. I grew up in Kansas City. I live out in Boulder now. This was a way to get home and spend more time around here. So bought the rights to this concept. I don't know if anybody here has been to a Take 5, but as we were discussing earlier, it's a 10-minute oil change, not a 5-minute oil change. You stay in your car, you don't get out, there's no lobby. We do kind of say we're the Chick-fil-A of oil change, although we don't have the queues like that, I can assure you. There's really only 4 other things. We don't do tires, we don't do brakes, we do 4 things: windshield wipers, cabin filters, coolant exchange, and air filter. We feel like people come into this, they want to get their oil changed, they don't want to end up with 4 new tires. So we know that consumers don't go away going, God, I went in for an oil change, I'm so glad I got these new tires. So it's clean. A lot of female employees, at our facilities. And when you pull up, there's treats for the kids and the dogs and water for everybody. So it's really about just getting you in and getting you out. So again, we've been looking at Lee Summit for a while. The gentleman who owns this property down here owns this property here. Took a long time to get him to kind of finally commit to sell this property. It's a big parcel, but we're putting a small building on here. So it's 1.73 acres, our building is 1,400 square feet. It's 3 bays. Like I said, we don't have any high-powered drills or things that are going off, taking tires off or anything. It's just getting under the car, doing the oil change, and moving people out. Our hours are 7 to 7, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 on Sunday, 7 to 6 on Saturday. Meeting with staff, we kind of did some stuff to, again, we know that there's residential zoning to the west here. There's a lot of trees out there, even in the fall and in the winter. And it's a big, buffer area, but we went ahead and agreed with them that we would not put signage on the north or the west sides of the building. No lighted signage, facing that direction, as well as a fence along that kind of northwest boundary. I had, had the public meetings, public notice with at the library down here. The only gentleman who showed up was John T. Evans, who, as you guys know, probably owns a lot of the shopping centers around here, but nobody else. So we have 4 of them open. Lansing is our latest location, Overland Park, Blue Springs, Belton, and we have a site under construction in Independence. So this would be our 6th store in the market. Outside of that, just wanted to present who we were. Didn't know if you knew what our business was. It's pretty simple, but we think we do a pretty good job. My wife was like, "Why are you getting an oil change?" And I said, I think this one's different. So anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Shannon McGuire, Senior Planner. Please enter into the record Exhibit A, list of exhibits 1 through 16.
Exhibits 1 through 16 noted and entered into the record.
I'm sorry, Exhibit A lists exhibits 1 through 15.
1 through 15 noted and entered into the record.
Right, as the applicant stated, they are seeking approval for a rezoning from an RP2 to that CP2 district and approval of a PDP to construct a slightly larger, or to construct a 1,400 square foot oil facility. North of the property, as you can see on the site plan here, is zoned R1, as well as the kind of the PO office space here. The PO zone is the Pine Woods office development. CP2 across 291 there to the east as well as to the south, and then to the west is also a little bit of R1 and that RP2. I do want to point out that the development is limited to just this portion here on the south side. The rest of the wooded area is proposed to remain wooded, has significant site limitations due to stream buffer corridor, so it will remain undeveloped for forever. So the 2021 Ignite Comprehensive Plan does identify the site's future recommended land use as the Downtown Activity Center. To guide future development, the comprehensive plan does establish land use principles, and one of those principles is to ensure the transition of land use patterns, intensity of uses between, to make sure that they are compatible and complementary in order to maintain the community character. So the proposed plan will provide some buffering from the intensive use and noise of the highway to those residential to the back. Rest of that site there. So, again, they are proposing that CP2 zoning district. The overall property is about 1.73 acres. The building is proposed to be 1,415 square feet with a total height of just over around 19 feet 10 inches. Proposed FAR is the 0.065, well under the UDO limit. They are proposing to provide the required 10 parking spaces. So the proposed zoning district is CP2. It is the intent of that district to provide for a location for a full range of retail and office development, serving the general needs of the community. Should the subject rezoning and PDP be approved, the proposed oil change facility will meet those UDO requirements by providing a needed service to our community. The proposed use is consistent and compatible with the uses in the surrounding CP2 zone district. Specifically to the north, we already do have kind of an automotive use on that end cap as well. Proposed building materials to be utilized in design of the building include some EFS stucco, cultured stone, and glass. These materials are compatible with the design and construction of existing buildings in the surrounding development, and again to that strip center just to the south of the proposed subject site. They are seeking a modification. The existing vegetation along the western boundary line of the subject property is very heavy and mature. This existing vegetation does provide a dense buffer and will continue to provide a thick screen between the existing and proposed uses. Additionally, if you can see here with the contour lines, where the pad site is and to those property lines, there's nearly a 28-foot grade drop. So installing the required vegetative screening as prescribed by the UDO would be extremely ineffective and inefficient, not only for screening purposes, but also for maintenance purposes. You also have a stream that runs through this area, so there's some difficulties with that. So they are seeking that modification to allow the 6-foot fence to be installed along the backside of this retaining wall here. And for these reasons that I've stated, we do find the requested modification to be reasonable. So with the conditions of approval as outlined here and in the staff letter, the application does meet the goals of the Ignite Comprehensive Plan, the requirements of the UDO, and the design and construction manual, and I can yield for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Shannon. We will open up to the commission for questions. Commissioner Rader.
So you showed a picture for the applicant. You showed a picture of the building in your presentation. So are there just 2 stalls for each? How many? 3 stalls?
Three bays. Cars in, it's maybe a Saturday.
Okay, and you,
Pictures that you saw? Bottom, the EFS.
okay, and then Shannon, on the signs, they won't be coming back through for sign application, will they, or do they have to?
The original submittal had quite a few more signs on there, so we did bring that down. Some of the signs were on the back, so it really didn't serve a purpose or compelling reason to go above and beyond the UDO requirements. So they still have the option if they want to come back, they can, but at this point, I think we're good.
Good. Yeah, I know, that won't see. Yeah, I understand. Thank you very much. Thanks, Shannon.
Commissioner Arth.
No questions, Chair.
Crafton.
No questions, Chair.
Anna Ford.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question. So I'm calling this site like a boot. This proposed development is only on the flat, wider side. Are you saying that nothing will ever get developed on the northern portion?
There's significant limitations with that creek running through there, and due to our stream buffer requirement, there's not developable site.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Chair.
Commissioner Tuzinski.
No comments.
Shannon, do you have a representation of the building material? I know the applicant said stone on the bottom. Is this going to be a block building?
So we'll have a stone band along the bottom, wainscoting, or with EFS for the remaining, so I can go back to the applicant's presentation to see his photos. It's a little bit clearer.
Well, it's just a steel structure, and then they'll have block on the bottom.
So I would say, yeah, it's closer in representation to the Blue Springs representation here, or Lansing, where you got the stone stucco with the different bandings and colors of stucco up top.
If I may, Chair. Is it more of ledger stone and not block, right? Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Anything else from the commission? I will open up for discussion.
No, thank you, Chair.
I just have a brief comment. I actually appreciate you coming to Lee Summit, so thank you for your efforts to do that and bring this here. I'm curious about the 10 minutes, so, you know, I may be one of your first customers to check it out, and I like it that you were able to get it developed there and get an entrance exit off of 291, so congratulations.
I think it's a great development. I like it, and I really like that not all of the plot of land is going to be developed. That's all.
Commissioner Trzynski?
No comments.
So I love the concept, and it piqued me, and I know we've been here for a really long time, and you're in the oil changing business, and I have to tell you a really quick funny story. When my son went away to college, we got him a new car, and we got him an oil change package at Bob's site Ford here in Lee Summit, and he was going to college in UCM, and he called me one day, and he said, "Dad, I need a tow truck." I said, "Why? Did you have a wreck?" He said, "No, I'm 77 miles past my oil change." So that was the first time I told him I would pay for anything that went wrong with his car if he drove it to Lee Summit from Warrensburg to get his oil changed. So too bad you weren't here. He could have done it in 10 minutes. Instead, he said at Bob's site.
I have to tell you a funny story, too. That same thing is my mom, who's 80. Spent more time with her the last 2 years because I've been coming up with a lot of this work, right? Well, she's coming back. We have a family farm out in western Kansas. Her son owned 3 of these out of oil. Froze the engine and literally had to have somebody come and take the car. Talking about how do you run a car out of oil? And I said, especially I'm in the oil business, right?
Go ahead, Commissioner Rader.
I was going to say, that's why you have female employees. They learn. And that was that was one thing I was going to ask you, was just the reason for female employees. I mean, that's cool. It's a comment, but a question, sort of. Yeah. Oh, wait. Oh.
Sorry. Come forward, dear.
I was at our store in Belton today, and there were 3 women employees. And I think it's just the feel for the place. I mean, this business doesn't have a great reputation, right? It doesn't feel comfortable coming into a lot of these places oftentimes. And I think that I asked the same question, but they feel comfortable in our environment, and I think that really helps with our customer base. I mean, our customer base is still 60% male, but there's a lot of women coming through with their kids or whatever because it's quick and easy.
So are the women changing the oil?
Yeah, they're getting under the
Cool.
cars and doing all the work. I mean, they're some of our best people because they're very conscientious and they also really interact well with the customer.
Thank you. It's awesome.
I just have a comment. I imagine Commissioner Trafton is going to compare the speed of this line to Chick-fil-A.
We have nothing on Chick-fil-A.
Nobody does.
Commissioner Jana Ford, could you lead us in a motion, please?
Absolutely, Chair. I move to recommend approval of application PL 2022-357, rezoning from RP2 to CP2 and preliminary development plan, Take 5 oil change, 400 Northeast Missouri 291 Highway, Driven Assets LLC applicant.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a vote on this application, please?
Linda Rader.
Aye.
Arth.
Aye.
Ronnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trafton.
Yes.
Tony Ford,
Yes.
Chip Tuzinski.
Yes.
The application has been recommended for approval. Thank you very much. Item D, public hearing application PL 2023-224 Unified Development Ordinance amendments to Article 2 pertaining to applications and procedures, Article 5 overlay districts, Article 7 subdivisions, and Article 8 site standards. City of Lee Summit applicant. Anyone wishing to provide testimony on this application, please stand and be sworn in at this time.
Good evening. I know this is the most exciting project and why everyone was here tonight, so thank you. Amy Nassif, Deputy Director of Development, here this evening to bring forward some of our Unified Development Ordinance updates, about 5 of our chapter and article areas. Kind of call these some housekeeping items. They're helping with some process efficiencies, helping update some things, providing clarity and transparency in our requirements and our regulations. And as always, whenever we're looking at Unified Development Ordinance updates, we're always looking at how it furthers our goals and our implementations of our comprehensive plan, and also get feedback from our developer and development community, our stakeholders, and also as well as staff. So the first one they're going to talk about, and so the slides I have tonight show what the current language is, and then also provide the red line copy for you. So the current language right now for our mailed notice requirements, it is, as you can see here, that it is sent by regular mail. And actually, we need to update that to certified mail. That is more consistent with KC Metro, with cities are basically across the state as well, that for just the public hearing requirement, that is a certified mail to ensure and make sure that property owners have received that, as that is a state statute requirement. The second one is for our preliminary development plans. This is our content submission. One thing that we don't require right now is just a simple narrative from applicants just to explain their project. Sometimes it's really obvious what that is, but other times it's not. And having some documentation in our software programs and our portals that we have that's public facing also just really helps provide a quick snapshot of what they're requesting and asking for. So literally all we're doing with this amendment here is requesting a project narrative. Please stop me if you have any questions or if I'm going too slow or too fast. The next one is our preliminary development plan requirements also, and this is where we're talking about our exterior building elevations. We currently get either color renderings, perspectives, or color elevations already. We already do get a color or material schedule, but we wanted just to be more clear in some of those items of things that we already get from our developer and our development community. So we're updating that language just to clarify, to have some of those drawings to an architectural scale, which again, we already get, but it just provides that transparency for folks when they're looking at our code, helps them prepare even for pre-application meetings. Also including the dimensions so that we can do that review with the relationship with the various elements. Things that, again, sometimes we were asked during the pre-app meeting, or we might ask them in our first comment review. If we don't have it, usually always get it. So again, this just provides it more upfront for everyone knowing exactly what to expect when they're coming right in the door. Our current language here is under our statement of need for modifications. And a couple just cleanup items was just that, just clarifying, it's not just a modification from district regulations, it's just modifications, period, from our UDO. We're not changing what you can ask for or how to ask. We're just striking out the language that was redundant. And actually the reference to Article 4, it just should have been, and it meant to refer to Article 2, because Article 2 is where our procedures actually are. This slide is my favorite because it's like that really long text message you get from friends or family that you can't get off of, and you're like, why didn't you just call me when it's like this long, right? It's difficult to read. then it's sometimes challenging then to explain, and then also to ensure and make sure that we're getting what we're looking for. So what we did here was just broke it up into little subsections. Again, the standards and the process is the same. We just cleaned it up, made it more of like an itemized list just to help with the readability of it. And then again, just at the very bottom here, just some redundant language that wasn't necessary, but again, did not change and does not change the vote or the process or the procedure at all. Our findings of fact here, regards our flood insurance study, and as you can see, currently at the very bottom here at the last sentence, it's that the flood insurance maps are dated from 2017. Well, FEMA has recently published and updated those maps. And so we are required to stay in our good standing and active participation in the National Flood Insurance Program to adopt those maps before they come out in December. So what our language here that we're asking to update in partnership with our Public Works friends is just to update it to the December 7th, 2023 maps. Does not change any status of any properties in Lee Summit and does not change our maps. It just simply has us accepting the new FEMA maps. And then again, back to modifications, and this is a quick one. It just had the wrong reference. And just need to update that so it directs the reader to Article 2, which is our procedures article. The tree conservation plan section, this has some items in there talking about our conservation plan requirements. This one's just a little interesting. If you notice this the second sentence at the top just then suddenly starts talking about preliminary plans and when they're provided and to look below. But when you look below, it's not referencing preliminary plans at all. So we think it was just maybe just a leftover sentence. So we just need to clean that up and just strike that out, so that everything on there is just referring to and referencing our conservation plans. Again, just housekeeping items, but very important and helps when we get questions like this from applicants. Tree conservation plans here may be submitted, and we always talk about tree conservation plans when they're required. Our titles reference that. The very last sentence, though, suddenly kind of changes the name to a tree protection plan. So just for consistency, again, just cleaning that up and making the reference consistent across the entire UDO. Acceptable plant materials. This is something that we've heard from our stakeholders and our developers, applicants that we work with, that when we're having those buffer and those tree requirements for plantings, 3-inch caliber trees are sometimes difficult and oftentimes difficult now to get. They're just not in supply and very challenging. So, and we always get a lot of modifications and requests for those. I think we might, get them all the time from various projects. So we're just updating that to 2.5 inches. That's what typically then we end up doing those modification approvals for. That's much more easy to obtain and is consistent with area and other cities in the metro, And then also added that for small deciduous ornamentals, though those could be 1.5-inch caliber. This is a great update because oftentimes we do try to keep track and pay attention to modifications when we get them, because if there's patterns that are forming, well, that kind of tells us that maybe we need to start looking at some alternatives and maybe there's some updates that need to be made. And this is a prime example of that. And then just had some examples of the difference with the large deciduous trees and the small deciduous trees. This is another example of we get a lot of modifications. Our current code requires plantings on both sides of a fence or a wall, which is very challenging. Don't always get to see the impacts of having the landscaping, let alone being able to maintain it. So instead of requiring plantings on both sides of a fence or a wall, we're just going to strike that out. And then also add and include the 3-foot high berm could be an option instead of a fence or a wall. The berm option's already listed and identified as an option in other areas of our code, but it's not under our typical impact screens, and it should be because it's referenced elsewhere that it's encouraged. And then also, instead of having that diagram with the big red X on it, we were going to replace that in the UDO and update that with just some pictures, because picture images help developers, especially ones who may be new to Lee Summit, to show just examples of what we're looking for. Then this is just some examples in the area of different berms and things and how they make a really nice look, and you can also have it with fencing behind it, but not on both sides. We did all the research and drafting and then met with the CEDC back in August and obtained their direction and support for these recommendations this evening. And then the next step, of course, is the public hearing before you all, before advancing then to City Council as with any UDO update. And that was all for tonight, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Amy. Commissioner Tuzinski, any questions?
No questions.
Jenna Ford.
No questions, thank you.
Amy, that was a really nice job. I appreciate the efficiency. Going back to the first change, I did have a question. I probably should have asked it back there, and I'm not sure how. Oh, yeah, on mailed notice requirements. I didn't notice in there, I understand the certified mail and why you're trying to certify people actually get notification, because then they come back and say, oh, you didn't notify me. But do we also do like other types of notification if we have it, but like more common, current kinds of technology enhanced communication?
Yes, so one of the reasons we wrote certified and didn't like specify beyond that is there is also an electronic read receipt, which is accepted now as certified. It's half the cost. And
Yeah.
it's one of the more modern ways to do that, so you can
Yeah,
do
that's what I was wondering about.
regular,
So.
yeah, so this lets that flexibility open for.
It
people to
doesn't
choose
allow
from.
that flexibility?
This would allow that. They
Oh,
can either do
okay,
the
cool.
electronic read receipt as certified mail or the traditional
Great, well,
certified
thanks for
mail.
clarifying that.
You're welcome. It was a great
No,
question.
no further questions.
Commissioner Arth.
No questions, Chair.
Rader.
That was a nice presentation, thank you, but I have no questions.
Cool. Thank you, Amy. And I want to really congratulate staff, since Ryan and Josh are both here and they're from the good old days. Dave's here and Don, that I don't know how many years we've been talking about caliper size, so this is awesome. This is like 7 years. Yeah. Yep. Yep. No, this is awesome. Great job. Anything else from the commission? Nothing? We will close the public hearing and open up for a motion on this, or discussion, any discussion? Other than great job. Mayor Tuzinski, fire away.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of continued public hearing application number PL 2023-224, Unified Development Ordinance amendments to Article 2 pertaining to applications and procedures, Article 5 overlay districts, Article 7 subdivisions, and Article 8 site standards, City of Lee Summit applicant.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a vote, please?
Linda Rader,
Aye.
Dana Arth,
Aye.
Donnie Funk,
Yes.
Terry Trafton,
Yes.
Tanya Jonah Ford,
Yes.
Chip Tuzinski.
Yes.
And this has been recommended for approval. We will move on to our last public hearing, which is public hearing application PL 2023-077, Unified Development Ordinance amendments to Article 6, use standards pertaining to accessory uses, structures and requirements for accessory dwelling units, ADU, and Article 15, rule of interpretation and definition, City of Lee Summit applicant, to be continued to a date certain of November 9th. Public hearing. I don't think anybody's going to say anything, so we will move right on into a motion to continue this.
Chair, I move to continue public hearing application PL 2023-077, Unified Development Ordinance amendments to Article 6, use standards pertaining to accessory units and structures and requirements for accessory dwelling units, ADUs, and Article 15, rules of interpretation and definitions, City of Lee Summit applicant, to a date certain of November 9th, 2023.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a vote to continue this application?
Cindy Rader.
Aye.
Dana Arth.
Aye.
Donnie Funk.
Yes.
Terry Trafton.
Yes.
Tony Jonah Ford.
Yes.
Chip Tuzinski.
Yes.
The application has been continued. We have wrapped up all of our public hearings. We will move to roundtable. Mr. Elam, thank you for granting us with your presence all evening. It was so wonderful and so nice to have you here. I know you're checking your fantasy football score back there. I just checked mine. So we're good. We're all good. Anything from the commission?
I have something. I had a really interesting evening watching the council meeting on Tuesday, and I learned something about David Bushak. I'm so proud of you. He is a published author, and he has a book on Amazon, and it's a bestseller.
What have you been hiding from us, David?
Yeah, David, come on.
I heard there's only one copy, so someone better grab it while it's still there.
I want to grab it, but I couldn't find it on Amazon, but Fred said he did.
Yeah, a couple people during the meeting found it on Amazon.
What's the name of it again?
Yeah, what is it?
Exactions, impact fees, and dedications, shaping land use development and funding infrastructure in the Dolan era.
I looked up
1990
inactions. I couldn't find it. I'm gonna have to get it. Exactions.
Actions, yes.
I spelled it wrong.
Yeah.
That's why. Anyway, congratulations. When did you write that book?
Published in 1995.
You've been smart a long time.
Thanks.
You've been hiding this from us all this time.
You're smart, boy.
My wife tells me, not so much, but.
Anything else from the commission? Well, that's awesome, David. I did not know that. Now I do. That's great. And little do you know that he's going to tell us when we turn this over to staff roundtable that we all need to read the book, and he's going to quiz us at our next meeting. So, get the book, everybody. Amy, I'm not texting, or Dawn, I'm not texting, so I am sending myself an email for November meeting dates. I'm going to do November 9th.
And November 16th.
Those are back-to-back Thursdays, correct?
Can I ask a question about that? Like, why wouldn't we go to the 30th so we still have a week between each meeting?
Very good question.
Because our next meeting isn't until December 14th.
Yeah.
We can blame it on Josh. He left the room, and I think he made the schedule.
Why would you?
I think, yes, I'll do that. No, but I think it was also taking into account city council and packets, and if there was rezonings that happened to land, and what those 15 days would look like. So that was the best of the worlds, I guess, yes, at that time. At this time, we don't have anything confirmed on the 16th agenda, but good just for everyone's awareness, just in case we do end up with something.
So are we having turkey dinner that night?
All right, well, I'll suffer through it.
Just asking.
Ryan will sponsor our
Turkey sandwich.
annual planning commission.
We are getting an annual Thanksgiving dinner that night. Awesome. Thank you so much, City of Lee Summit.
Well, Sue and I would just like for you guys to provide us with an interpreter when we get Schlotzsky's so we know what it says on the... We were playing a good guessing game, Sue.
We do like Schlotzsky's. It's good.
It's good, but the guy, whoever wrote the whatever on the packages...
Can we start getting Chick-fil-A?
Not after tonight. Oh, anything else? Roundtable, we're all good? We are adjourned.